Hey
Morning.
guys, good morning.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Farouk.
Hello. Okay.
All right, so on the line is Deb, Farouk, and who else, please?
David
Gail?
Austin.
David Austin and Gail. Okay. So we're
And-
waiting.
Well, Kirk sent me something saying he couldn't get on, so I resent the thing I had to, so he could send an email to Victoria to send him something.
And I'm on.
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
on
you're
now.
on?
Yep.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Kurt, you can copy Barbara or because Victoria sends everything back to me. So, it was my understanding that the invitations were individualized. So I don't know.
They are. Each person
So,
gets an individual invite.
right. So that's Chris. So it doesn't help, and this happened at the last meeting, so I wanted to make that clear. You should contact me or Barbara if you can't get in. The access code the invitation that you're sent is particular to you. So you, Gail, cannot get in on my access code and so forth. So future reference.
Know that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it was just to send him her. I didn't have her any way to get in touch.
Of course not.
That's what I had.
I mean, it's my job to get in touch with Victoria. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Well, can you make a note to tell Victoria I did not get anything at my Gmail account, and nowadays it's not. I can't always use my work account. So.
Well,
Just
send
make
me
sure she sends
your
it to
Gmail.
All
Send me
right,
your Gmail account, and I'll add it to the webinar.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Well, you have it. I mean, it should be there.
Well,
I got it last time.
So, Gail, you don't want. Chris, Gail uses 2 email addresses. So, Gail, what's your preferred address?
Well, I want to make sure it comes to my Gmail address so that if there are issues.
Okay, so you don't want us to use your work account anymore, or?
No, I don't mind having 2 addresses. It's just that she only sent it to the work one, which I don't have access to as easily. I have to be on a computer now.
Okay, well, see, Victoria wouldn't know that. You know what I'm saying? That you use
Right.
2 addresses. So, yes, I will let her know that you use the 2 addresses.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. I mean, you're the only board member who does. So when Victoria and Chris send out the invitations, they don't know that. It's just board members and staff that know that you use the 2 email addresses. Okay, so 1234, where are we in terms of accounts? Anybody else? Deb, Farouk, David, Gail, and Kurt.
I'm here.
Right.
Jamie.
Jamie.
Mark
And
Richards.
Mark Richards.
Mark, and Chris is here, and so okay, we can go ahead and get started. We're still missing Kathy, but I'm sure she'll join us. I'm gonna call the set of meetings to order at 12:35 p.m. On the line is myself, Beverly Roby, Chris Borges, our administrator, Mark Richards, Jamie Smith, Kurt Franklin, Gail Batchelder, David Austin, Farouk Sadiq, and Deb Listernick. Did I leave anyone out?
Kathy Campbell's here.
Oh, Kathy, good. All right. And I just wanted to let you all know that the meeting is being recorded, and we have a quorum. So I will turn the meeting over to David, so that we can start the continuing ed.
Hello, everyone. So I'm calling the continuing ed committee meeting to order August 11th at 12:36. Is there any update? Well, any update on minutes from previous months?
Yes,
Decisions?
and yes. I'm sorry, 12:36. Call to order. Yes, I have received guidance from the Attorney General's office. First of all, I'm going to get the minutes to date posted that are outstanding. That's January, February. I went into the office, so I'll get those all caught up. What I have received from the Attorney General's office is as follows. There is no need to, if a meeting is recorded in real time, we are not required to post a transcript or recording afterwards. If you want to, if the board decides to provide access to the video recording, a link is fine. We are not required. Oh, Greg is emailing me saying he can't get in. I'll have to take care of that in 1 second. If you want to provide the recording, that's fine. But we're not required to transcribe the meeting. Let me see if I can email Greg now. And that's for everybody else to discuss. Whether or not you want to post the transcript, but we're not required to do either.
That is good in a way, I think, right?
Is that the same rule for the board meeting or just for the continuing ed?
That is the rule, and I'm going to repeat it at each meeting.
Okay.
At any of the meetings. So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to help Greg here. And so.
This is Debbie. My opinion is that we should post the video because otherwise the public, unless they're able to listen live, they don't get the information. I know there's quite a few people that would read the written minutes, so I think they might review the video.
Right. So hold on. Like I said, I'm still trying to email Greg.
Does that mean we wouldn't do written minutes anymore, or I'm assuming we'd still do the written ones?
I don't.
No, I'm assuming no. That's.
I'm not. First of all, the transcript is the best. I'm taking Deb's position here. The transcript is the best record of what took place, and I am not taking minutes the way that I normally take minutes. I've got a phone and 2 laptops going, and I'm conducting the meeting, and I just am not able to transcribe minutes the way that they should be transcribed. Hold on, I'm still trying to get Greg in.
The easiest thing is to just post the video, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And that's probably the most inclusive too.
Well,
second.
no, I was just thinking about how difficult it might be to sit through 3 hours of something to get one piece of information where it doesn't take that long to read. That was my only comment. I'm not sure everybody wants to sit through the 3 hours.
Well, I guess the thing
Well,
is most people
go
have
ahead.
an item that they're interested in. So if it's continuing ed, they would listen to that, or you can fast forward to the board meeting. I don't think it necessarily requires you sitting there, just like anything that the BWSC meetings, you don't necessarily have to listen to the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Then that's fine if they don't need that.
Well, you also have to consider. I also have to consider what's the best use of my time.
Oh yeah,
And
no.
I'm
I
saying-
wasn't suggesting you do, Beverly.
No. Well, there is nobody else. I've always taken the minutes, and so what I'm saying is that if we have the transcription, that's even more accurate than what I would have. Okay. Now Greg is in as an observer. Chris, do you see Greg there on the monitor anywhere? I'm sorry to interrupt the continuing ed meeting.
Yeah, he's as an attendee, so he must have clicked the general link and not his specific panelist link.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
You promote
Okay.
him?
Yeah. This is what I'm saying, people. If you have an issue, let me know. The links are individualized again, and they can't be swapped back and forth. So what I'm doing is looking for the specific link that Victoria sent on the 5th.
She sent one today as well.
To Greg. Let me find that.
What's his email address?
His email address is
That's it right there.
Yeah, Greg McBride at gza.com.
yes.
So I just resent him the invitation.
Okay.
His
All right,
invitation.
I just pulled up his invitation. I'm going to send it to him as well. Okay.
I mean,
I guess
I'm sorry.
I guess that he didn't look at his specific link and just went to the website and pulled down the website and call-in information. Okay.
So going back to the draft minutes, just to clarify, the transcript is your handwritten notes of the meeting minutes, or it's word-to-word transcript of the audio?
It's a recording of the audio.
That's the
recording. The minutes that I have that I intend to post on the website for sure are the last face-to-face meeting minutes that we have. So I have to post January and February. There was no meeting in March. There was the Zoom bombing in April, no meeting in May, and then the June meeting. So what would be up on the website would be the June, July, and August meetings, as well as the minutes from the transcriptions that I took in January and February.
No, so my question is, there's two options for these last few meetings, either the recording or a transcript. So what is the actual transcript? Your notes?
I don't have a transcript.
Okay.
I just have my notes. And if that's what you mean, I have my notes, but they're not in the official form that I take them in when we have face-to-face meetings.
Right.
Okay, so that seems as just one option. The other thing is the timeliness. If the recordings can get posted shortly after the meeting, that would be preferable than getting written meeting minutes, months later.
Usually the video is ready, the video recording is ready about 24 hours after the meeting takes place.
So there you go. But I just wanted to be clear about the guidance from the Attorney General's office. Like I said, written transcription is not necessary. And actually, I can send you what the AG sent if you'd like to see it. Would you like? Do you board members want to see the AGO advisory?
Yes.
Of course you do. I'll send it.
Deb's preference is to put the recordings online. Do other folks agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Short of any other option for written notes, my preference is written notes, but that doesn't sound like an option, so the recorded meeting notes is fine.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Did Greg ever get on? I sent him again, and
Greg is here. Thank you.
great. Greg, I
For the
just
record, I did not receive an invitation before, so got to figure out a way to send them.
She says the invitation. I have an invitation that was sent to you on August 5th.
Yeah.
Victoria sent it, and she copied me.
Yeah.
So
it must be getting caught in our firewall, but we'll deal with that later. But please go ahead.
Okay, because Greg, I just wanted to say very quickly what I said to everyone else. You can't use anyone else's call-in. The invitations are particularized to that person.
Okay.
We'll have to make sure, because like I said, I got it. I'll have to make sure that Victoria has your correct address, her and Chris, and I'll do that. Okay, David, I'm sorry, we're all set then.
Yeah, so we'll post the recordings, videos of the last few meetings to serve as our minutes, and I'll add some soundtrack to them. How about that? So we have, for new business, we have 7 course approval requests. What order are we doing the roll call in, Beverly?
You can do it however is convenient for you, David. Do you want me to give you the list that I called off?
No.
Will that help?
No, I'm taking it right off this.
Okay. So long as we vote, it doesn't matter.
So the first one is an LSPA online on-demand format and webinar, 2 technical credits. It has all of the requirements that we're looking for nowadays for these type of online courses. I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Any discussion from the board or the public? So we'll do a roll call. I guess is approving it for the 2 credits.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute myself. Is this the request for approval in 2 new formats? Is that the one we're looking at?
It's
Yeah.
like last month, they're asking for the 2 credits to be approved in both formats, and they provide that information in the 1 letter.
And this is an existing course, so I guess the motion is to approve as 1656A and B for each format.
Yes.
So moved.
Deb,
Yes?
Farouk,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
me, yes. Is that everyone? Okay, the second one, Enviro Summit, 16 credits, a conference in September for 2 days. I don't know what people felt of this, but in general, the application doesn't have any assessment of learning for their online version. In general, I say no to all the morning sessions. The titles alone don't really convince me that there's going to be a subject or technology that's pertinent to LSPs, and I don't think we should bother trying to get more details from them. And then I went through all the afternoon sessions, and I felt some of them were applicable and some with reduced times because of some of the subject matters or to be determined. I don't know if we want to go through each one in detail or what people's thoughts were.
Well, there's some issues with timing anyway, I noticed. I mean, I don't, because, and it's the same situation, quite frankly, as going back and forth. It has to be as a conference because of the opportunity to go back and forth between breakout groups. But even then, adding up, you'd have to add up every single course that we think is appropriate, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, you have to sort it out and say these are, and then we'd have to have the same kind of requirement for checking in and checking out as we require of the soils conference, because they're breakout groups.
Yeah.
So it's a conference to begin with. It's
Rather than trying to sort
definitely
through,
conference credit.
right, I agree. And rather than trying to sort through each individual session, the easiest thing to do would just be do the half credit per hour, as long as they can meet the sign in, sign out.
But not if it's not appropriate. We have to say this session isn't appropriate. That's the problem.
I thought
There may be
that was
enough
the whole
not
point of
appropriate
conferences.
stuff.
Conferences could include, everything that goes into a conference because you're doing the half credit per
Well,
hour.
We don't look
Yeah,
at
but we
every
also
session
have to
for the
then
soils
count up.
conference.
Here's the thing, we're gonna have to count up the actual hours that the sessions take place. It's not 16. Look at the times they end. We will have to actually go through and say, okay, actually a total of half of X, and X is not 16.
So to answer your question, Jamie, we have looked at the soils conference and like removed stuff that was referring to CHMM work or something like that. And in this one, there's a whole section on
Right.
wastewater, coal ash, air monitoring, which some or all of it is not applicable.
David, what they have is 1 hour sessions throughout. And when you add all of those 1 hours, it becomes 16. However, there's about 16 others that has nothing to do with environmental work that we do in Massachusetts.
Right.
And somebody could be taking those 16s and could be applying for it. So it becomes a difficult one, how to go about doing it.
Well, this is Debbie. I agree with David that probably the morning sessions both days that deal with international environmental and remediation issues probably wouldn't be applicable. So it kind of leaves the afternoon technical sessions.
How about we just table it and I take the agenda for the afternoon sessions and I strike out what I don't think is applicable, a PDF it and just send it to everyone and everyone can look at it. Because sitting here and trying to go through it, it's just going to take way too long and it's not worth it.
I agree.
Okay, well, David, send it to me.
Okay.
And I'll send it out to the board because these are, first of all, let me just note that you're going to have to vote on whether or not to table the course and what course of action you're going to take.
We're gonna table it. The motion is to table it and to consider it further
Okay.
after we evaluate the afternoon sessions. For instance, I'm gonna cross out a VI hour where it's to be determined. I mean, there's no even subject matter.
Okay.
And I'll just give that to you. It'll be real easy, a lot faster than this, and then you can distribute it and people can thumbs up, thumbs down on what I felt was not applicable, and then we can add up the hours. So.
Okay.
Even then,
just to be clear, David is gonna the courses table. This is you'll have to put this in the form of a motion, but the courses for now tabled. David is going to take the responsibility of making the first cut. He'll send that information to me, and it will be on the agenda for consideration at the September 15th board meeting.
So that's the motion.
Second.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, Deb,
Yes.
Farouk,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes, with just noting that our next meeting will be after, or this course will be offered before our next meeting.
Yep.
Well,
That's fine.
yeah. Yeah, we've worked backwards before.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. But they
Yeah.
did submit it. They submitted it before, so they're good. Go ahead, David. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's a good point. Kathy,
Yes.
Kirk?
Yeah.
And me is yes.
Quick question from the audience. What are the components that the LSP board is looking for in webinar trainings? That's from Jennifer Griffith.
In webinar trainings?
Yeah, you mentioned, they
Yep.
have all the components that we look for in webinar trainings, and I think her question was, well, what are those components?
I think she's looking for assessment of learning and those things, David, maybe.
Polling
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
It's typically what we've seen in the recent letters from like LSPA, and it would be nice to formalize it maybe on the web, what we look for these online learning classes on demand and the webinars, about the polling to keep track of people's attendance, for the online on-demand courses, make sure there's, assessment of learning, things like that.
So I'm sorry, David. Assessment. I'm taking notes on assessment of learning. What else did you say?
Well, the assessment of learning is keeps track of someone if they actually did the online on-demand course versus the webinar version where there's the random polling questions and they can keep track of someone who's logged in and logged out. Right.
These are requirements in addition to maintaining attendance records and so forth. So I have assessment of learning, and there are other things. Gail, you have mentioned some in the past that we have applied to webinars.
Yeah, I actually think David just mentioned the key one, which is you have to have the questions, the polling questions during the webinar, especially the active one, so that you can tell if somebody isn't responding. But there's no way to tell. I don't think there's a way to tell who isn't responding to those. Is part of the problem.
Right.
You just know that X percentage answered the question. You just don't know who those people are. So it's a bit tricky. We don't have a really good way.
Well, Jennifer is, of course, one of our part of our course provider team of collaterals, and so I think she's just looking for guidance specifically. So assessment of learning is important. Attendance records, what else have we required beyond, related to the MCP hazardous waste site cleanup work, beyond the general requirements?
Yeah, it's been nicely summarized in some of the requests once again.
Okay.
And as I've said, it would be nice to have it on the web so that other providers can see what we're looking for.
I second that what David said. I mean, think about how these courses come in with their variety of detail and information, disjointed, unorganized. We spend more time trying to figure things out. While if we got everyone on a uniform template going forward, I think it would improve our ability to review these classes a lot easier.
Well, I'm not gonna put it on the web because it's we have to talk about that because it's separate and apart from the regulations. So what I'll do is take a stab at drafting some language for the board's review, and we can discuss it at the September 15th continuing ed meeting. I'll draft some standards is what I'm saying, and we can edit, and then we can send it out to each of the course providers and then talk about whether or not it goes on the web. Is that okay?
I think that's a worthwhile exercise for sure. It'll probably wind up saving us all a lot of time.
Yeah,
the regulations are clear and people send in requests with the correct information. It's just under the pandemic, under these last few months where we're getting a lot more webinar, online, on-demand courses, there should be some consistent guidance on what else we look for.
Yeah, I agree. So
okay.
I'll take a stab at that for the next meeting.
And speaking of polling questions, we approved that EBC climate 3-hour course at the last meeting, and we told them they had to add in polling questions. Well, I did the course, and they had 5 random polling questions throughout the 3 hours, which basically kept me glued to my computer.
So, it was a good thing. It was a good thing.
And it accomplished the objective.
That was the objective. So,
I was trying to go use the bathroom.
Yep. So we'll codify this and incorporate it into the reg revision as well. But this is a fairly new phenomena. As David said, COVID-19 has it is acting as a catalyst. We've got to get this done. And there are going to be, frankly, more webinars, more live webinars, and that sort of thing in the future. So better to just get it done now. So number 2 is all set.
Okay.
If I could just add one more, David. In addition to the live webinar, what about the recorded sessions that are on demand? You usually have a test at the end, right?
Yep. And
learning.
Yep. And so far, all the people who have been approved for that have said there's going to be an assessment of learning. There's going to be a test, and you have to get an 80% or something on them. They've all had that.
All right, so that would be added to our summary template.
Well, that's always been there, Mark.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
They've always had to have an assessment of learning. Okay.
So moving on to number 3, Mass DEP request course on BI best practices, requesting 4 Mass DEP regulatory credits, live webinar format, and then online on demand. I don't think we can give them 4 credits. I don't think there's enough DEP participation. Gerard is hosting it, and I'm sure he'll be involved throughout the 4 hours and is presenting, I think, for a half hour. I look back at a PFAS course from October 2017 that the LSPA did with DEP, and Paul Locke was one presenter along with 5 other technical folks, and we approved it for 2 regulatory and 2 technical. So I'm not sure what folks felt about this one.
Is it, David, does it have to do with DEP actual participation, or is it DEP approval of the content?
Participation.
No, yes. The reg requires that it has to be taught in whole or in substantial part, is the language of the reg, by DEP personnel.
Yeah, I think we're going to approve the course. It's just a matter of if it's all for regulatory or we split it.
Right. So is this, in your view, taught in whole or in substantial part by DEP personnel? David, you've mentioned that there's only one DEP person, and he is not the sole presenter, or he's the sole DEP person. Maybe I misheard you.
Yeah, so Gerard Martin is the sole DEP person, along with a bunch of other presenters, similar to course 1608 from 2017, where one DEP person was a presenter along with other presenters. And we gave that one 2 and 2.
I have a comment from Wendy Rundle. She said the DEP will be approving the content and the DEP speaker will be on the webinar for all 4 hours, including the Q&A.
Okay, so I'm looking at the reg, and the reg says the board, in its discretion, may classify a course as DEP if it's taught in whole or substantial part by DEP personnel. So the subject matter is not the problem. The issue is whether or not, well, actually, it must be taught. The language says to be designated as a DEP course. A course must be taught in whole or in substantial part. So you guys have to figure out whether or not Gerard Martin's role is significant enough to meet that standard.
Wes Simpson just posted, look at the recent LNAPL course, similar to this and approved for 4 hours DEP credit.
I think there's a difference if DEP is approving the content. It's similar to, well, no, it's not similar to what I'm thinking of, but I think the point is that if they're approving it, I think that does make a difference in how we approach it, because they don't have to talk the whole time, but if they are aware of what everyone's saying and say that, yes, this is consistent with our guidance, I think that should count.
Well, it says that the course has to, the course has to be taught in whole or in substantial part. So it boils down to whether or not Gerard Martin is teaching the whole thing or most of it.
Well, or is he directing it? I mean, if he directs it, I think that should be count. And also the whole thing is we just gave credit for the LNAPL course. Well, which it sounds like is very similar.
Well, we can make mistake once. We should not continue it. No, Debbie, Gail, on that. Here again is, I think Dave is right in the sense that Gerard is taking on only 1 hour of the whole 4 hours, and we can, and for the question and answer piece of it, maybe another hour. So it's probably going to be 2 and 2, consistent with what we had done in the past.
Wendy also just posted, the LSP board just approved a webinar at the last meeting for 1.5 hours, and only half of that was with a DEP speaker. The other half is not taught by DEP. And then it said DEP will be reviewing all the speakers in advance of this course.
I don't think the deep. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
A half of a 1.5 hour course is different from less than a half of a 4-hour course. But I agree that the DEP person is going to be there. They're always going to be asking him questions. They're always going to tap into them. They're addressing regulations and practices for VI under the MCP. It's not like he's talking for a half hour and then leaving.
Well, the other thing is just the obvious thing is that the course was submitted by DEP. So they're aware of the content and how it represents the DEP's
Yes, if
Maybe the
DEP
practice.
sponsored it, approved it, and is going to be present throughout, I think that's enough for me to say it's a substantial part.
Well,
I would agree.
let-
DP does not need to
let
talk
me-
for
well-
4 hours.
Yep. Well, let me just say that you have to remember that you did this. This is setting precedent. So if Gerard Martin can teach 1 hour and 3/4 of the course is going to be taught by someone else. There are other speakers, aren't there? Yes. So, so those people are teaching 3/4 of the course. So if Gerard is there to answer questions or to act as a resource, I guess the question is he teaching what they're teaching? Because my understanding is everybody has a different content area that they're covering. If Gerard is responsible for the whole thing, so be it.
I think the difference here is from other types of situations, and it is similar to the LNAPL, I guess, but the idea is that if the course content has been approved by the department, which it sounds like it has been, they've gone through it all, they don't have to be the only person standing up there talking, but they are already aware of the content. It is consistent with DEP policy and regulation. And I think when we approve it, we can make that specific statement to say, so it isn't setting a bad precedent. We're saying, here's the reason why we're giving it this many DEP credits, so that future courses will have to meet the same standard.
Okay, let's bring
Yeah,
this
but what the regulation, that's not what the regulation says. Of course they have to, it's a bifurcated inquiry, and of course they have to meet the content requirement. So just because DEP approved the content requirement, that's different from them teaching the course. 309 requires 3.09 requires them to teach the course in whole or in substantial part. If you think that meets it meets that standard, because approval of the content is one thing. All that means is that it meets the standard for hazardous waste for relevancy. But
which we do anyways, which we check every single time we approve a course. We check that it is relevant and it meets the requirements of the LSP's course requirements. On an extreme case, let me just finish. On an extreme case, you can have Mass DEP sit for 15 minutes, approve the course content, say this meets the LSP's course requirement, and approve for an 8-hour DEP course. I'm not sure it meets that requirement that Beverly had just mentioned, that it has to be taught in substantial part by the DEP.
The regulation is written in a very restrictive way, which anticipated that there would be DEP personnel able and ready to do all of this. And I think what's happening is over time, the less and less of the DEP personnel are willing to put that type of time in. And so this has been constructed to try to address that. And you can see that the LSPA is doing the registration for it. The Alpha is hosting it, I guess, where they're going to be. And then they've gotten a number of different consultants to participate, to be to put down this information, which DEP expects in its regulatory and guidance and the guidance. They're constructing something which is they're hoping will be acceptable. In my mind, that does not meet the strict writing requirement, the requirements as written, but it certainly is a good attempt to put out DEP credits. I would be happier if there was at least one other DEP person there opining now and again. When you look at it, Gerard is only speaking for a half hour other than the introduction. It's very
One other
We
thing,
need to
if I
look more
remember it
closely
right,
at the content.
if
I'll
I
be
remember,
honest, I'm looking at the content, and the reality is it's a technical course.
no, it's
It is
other
not
thing.
on the regulations. The whole point of the DEP regulatory courses were that it did focus on the regulations piece of it or the guidance piece of it. This is not. This is stuff. And so,
if I remember it right, the reason why DEP courses were set this way is that I think it's LSP Association or the LSPs wanted to have DEP's presence and present some courses so that they can actually listen and hear from the DEP directly. That was actually one of the other pieces
yes,
of the DEP courses.
this
I
is
think
not a
that-
DEP course. If you read the content carefully, it is not about regulations or guidance or anything else. A lot of it is real factual technical aspects of here's what you do to do this, and it's technical, not DEP.
The DEP VI guidance is very technical, though. I mean,
No, but read this. This is not,
I'm
unless
reading it.
they're going to demonstrate, how it specifically applies to the guidance. And it doesn't say that. It really doesn't. I mean, I'm willing to give half regulatory credit for sure, but I don't think we can give full regulatory credit.
Yeah,
I think Greg
I
makes
tend
a
to
really
agree
good
with.
point.
Yeah.
The days of having DEP people speak for 4 hours or 8 hours in a course is not going to happen in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, but that speaks to more about the problem of the regulation, and maybe that should be considered to be changed rather than just say, sure, like, they're trying, so give them full DEP credit. I think it's half and half, unless they were to specifically address, and maybe we should be asking for them to do that in the future, specifically address why this is a DEP course, because one guy being there and speaking for 30 minutes or maybe 35 minutes with the introduction is, I don't think, meets even the spirit of that requirement.
Right.
This is Debbie.
And the other thing is, I know that we all know that DEP credits are so very, very important. And I just want to make sure that everybody carefully considers the regulation and as well as the fact that DEP courses are very important to LSPs.
This is Debbie. I just wanted to add, I think we need to do, as Wes had pointed out, look at the LNAPL course that was approved for DEP credits with just 1 hour presented by Ken Mara. But my recollection was that the other technical ones were geared towards implementation of the regulations and guidance specifically, not just a technical relationship to VI or a subject.
Can I make a motion?
I think there was a difference. I do think there was a difference because I didn't have the same feeling reading the LNAPL one that I have when I look at this one.
Go ahead, Mark.
My motion is to approve it for 4 DP credits.
You said
Second.
for 4 DEP credits?
That is correct.
Oh.
Any seconds?
I second it.
Well, can we have a discussion? Because I do want to point out that we're setting a dangerous precedent. I'm going to support Beverly on this because
vote on the
this
motion.
is a problem.
Let's vote on the motion. That's
No, but we can have a discussion after we have a second. That's the way it works. And I just want
think
to
We
we
can
put that out there.
discuss before the vote.
My comment. The discussion occurs before the vote.
I know, but we've
So
had
I'm throwing that out there.
My rationale is Wendy pointed out that Gerard Martin, even though he's only presenting on a portion of it, is going to be a participant throughout the session.
In my opinion, that does not really meet the requirement of substantially teaching the course or conducting the course credit. So in that spirit, I think, Gerard is probably, like Greg had said, 30 minutes. You can stretch it to an hour maybe.
Yeah.
To teach a
I think what does meet the standard, if they were to put something in here of each session and point out where in the guidance, like relate each of these sessions, specific places in the guidance, and say, the guidance specifically indicates that you should be doing this, and this is a way to do that. That's cool.
Okay, so it sounds like there are two issues for discussion. One, there is one group of members who feel that the course is a technical course, not a regulatory course, so that's one issue. The second issue another group of board members have raised is whether or not this course is meeting the regulatory standard of being taught in whole or in substantial part by DEP personnel. So they're two separate things. And just because Gerard is sitting there, and this is my opinion about those two things, just because Gerard is sitting there doesn't mean that he's teaching the course or that he answers a random question. That's not teaching the course. They have listed the instructor.
No, but developing a course counts. But Beverly, I would like to add that I do take into consideration that he did help, probably it sounds like he helped develop the course by sort of going through content with people, and I think that does count. So I'm not, that's why I would be willing to go half and half. So
yeah, but there's nothing, there's nothing in the reg about who develops what.
Well, that's what it means. Is a
no, that doesn't mean his role in development is great, but that doesn't have anything to do with whether or not he's teaching it. I can write up a syllabus and you can teach the course. That doesn't mean that, I mean, I think there are two separate issues up for either discussion or vote.
What about Kathy or Kirk? Do either one of you have an opinion?
Oh, there, I'm able to unmute.
Oh.
So do we want to take a vote on the motion or further discuss it?
Take a vote.
So excuse me?
Take a vote.
So the motion is to approve it for the 4 credits as proposed, DEP regulatory. Deb?
No.
Farouk?
No.
Gail?
No.
Jamie?
Yes.
Greg?
No.
Well, it's already failed. Mark?
You go through
Yes.
the whole roll call, though, David, please.
Yes. Kathy?
No.
Kirk?
No.
And me, I'll say no.
Okay, now you've denied it. What do you want me to take back to DEP? Is there a way that they can retool this, or?
I think we could.
We denied it for 4 credits, that's all.
Yeah, we can just change the.
Take another vote.
Yeah, take another vote.
Different vote.
Okay, so the course was denied as presented, and you're going to vote again, right?
So we have a motion.
No, it was denied. It was denied as the motion was presented.
So new motion
Okay.
to accept the course, to approve the course with 2 DEP credits and 2 technical credits.
Second. Any discussion on that?
Again, the same thing comes up, and Greg mentioned is half an hour of DEP's presence, how do we justify it to be 2 hours of regulatory credit? Where is the threshold? What is the threshold where we start to count what is substantially taught by DEP personnel, and how do we count it? Their presence alone, the amount of time they're standing up on a podium presenting it, or sitting in the corner or in the back, and if somebody asks a question, they'll answer that question. The amount of time they're sitting there, that counts as substantially teaching. Some of that I think we need to hash out so that we don't get into this conundrum in the future.
Yeah.
Exactly. I
agree
think that's subject to interpretation, which is obviously we just saw we have different interpretations of what substantial part can mean.
And I'd like to add, there's interpretation for what it means to teach. I think to teach a class, you don't need to physically be teaching everything. You can bring in experts, just like other seminars bring in experts to teach content. A big part of a practicing LSP is to implement technical things that are going to meet regulation and guidance. If you think about all the sessions we go to when DP is there, the questions that come up are related to the things we're doing from a technical standpoint. So the technical content is absolutely, I think, regulatory driven. That's why they're there. They're approving technical content from a regulatory perspective. I think it's.
But that isn't what the regulatory courses were designed for. They were designed.
I disagree. I disagree. You look at all the sessions you go to, and the discussion that ensues with respect to what LSPs are doing. LSPs want to know what they're doing technically is meeting regulation often, and that's what comes up a lot. And
I agree with that. What I'm saying is DEP regulatory courses were designed for a specific purpose, and it was to present the regulations and guidance. And to the extent that you need guidance to do difficult things, but that wasn't what the meaning of the term was when that regulation was put in effect. And if we want to revisit what that means, that's a different issue. But that was not the technical aspects of things, unless the DEP person, and unless, as I said before, if somebody could say, here's where it is in the guidance, and here's a way to accomplish what the guidance is saying, that's different. That's a different aspect of it.
Greg, Mark, the way I look at everything, all the courses that we present and we approve, they all have to meet the requirement that it somehow addresses the MCP or the regulations and the technical implementation of the regulations. Every single course that we approve and we take as an LSP. The DP regulatory courses, it's a special subset that was created so that LSPs can hear from the regulators directly, and from the, and that was the whole sole intent for that. And I understand that what Greg had mentioned, that because of the budgeting issues and personnel and all of that, they are having difficulty with that, fulfilling that role. We recognize that. And so how do we do it? Do we reduce the number of regulatory requirements? Do we change the regulations the way it is written right now, or the interpretation of it as we have? So those are the things that we need to go through before we can actually completely start implementing a different way. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, no, it does. It makes total sense, Farouk. That's exactly what we have to do. We have to discuss it and figure out, do we mean something different now? And then why bother with DEP regulatory courses at all and just take them off the table? But I think the one thing to get back to your original point, Farouk, about substantial part, I think one of the issues is if we do 2 credits of regulatory, it's only substantial part of 2 credits. Yeah. It's not going to be the whole course. And then I do believe that having a DEP person involved in the development of the course and content and like approval does count as DEP's substantial part in teaching, because they're doing something with the content.
I would have felt better if the DEP representative was the person that was doing the hosting of it. This was being done by the LSPA, and it really, we don't even know, based on what they presented to us, that the DEP has taken an active role in putting this together.
But it is on DEP letterhead from Paul
I
Lapp.
understand, but I think on a practical basis, we all understand that DEP is having a hard time putting regulatory courses together, and so this is a practical approach to it. But I don't, and I agree with what Mark says about the technical content, but I don't think this course rises to the level of achieving the 4 hours of regulatory credit. I think we're being generous if we give it 2 hours.
I just know
Maybe
the
we give it
challenge.
one.
I just know the challenge with the VI guidance and VI in general is the level of regulatory interpretation and technical interpretation is huge. And
Absolutely.
to have a DP regulator who is the leading expert within the department to talk and lead and MC this topic, I think is a lot more heavily regulation driven than in my mind. And that's why this one, each look at each course differently, but this one seems to me it would lean more heavily towards regulatory credit as opposed to technical.
Yeah, Mark, I would agree with you more if they had something in here about how DEP interprets some of these documents. I mean, I saw more in the LSPA email that came out yesterday about the regulatory interpretations that they've been making during audits. None of that is here. That should be here, taught by an auditor.
Okay,
Yes.
so go
They could
ahead.
do a little
Okay,
more.
so we're still back to the two queries that I raised. Number one, does it meet the standard for a regulatory DEP course? Number two, is it taught in whole or in substantial part by DEP personnel? I think it sounds to me, just as an outsider like you guys, are still weighing both parts of those two qualifications that have to be met. So reducing the hours, you're saying Gerard Martin is only on the floor teaching for a half hour. That leaves 3.5 hours that are not taught by DEP personnel. And then there's the question of the course content itself. I hear LSPs raising the point that it's technical, not regulatory curriculum.
Well, it's technical, but it does have significant regulatory implication, policy related issues.
Okay.
Subject matter, I don't have any issues with this. No.
Okay. So can you answer question number one? Does the course meet the standard for regulatory credit? Is it regulatory, not technical?
There's a regulatory component of this as it's the syllabus as it's presented. And I think the only question is how much of it should be considered regulatory.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I think we agree with that.
And how much of it meets the DEP's DEP course? Now there's a particular definition for the DEP course. Somehow that we need to incorporate in the whole piece too.
Mm-hmm.
So we could approve.
Okay, guys. I know David's jumping out of his skin. I'm teasing David. He's looking at his watch, I can tell, or his phone. So that we can move on, what would you like to do? How would you like to handle this? Do you want more information? Do you want to approve it for some lesser amount? The course is being scheduled for the 15th. That doesn't mean that it can't be approved afterward. The problem is if this course is taught as it's presented, there's no opportunity for them to make a course correction.
So just to let you know, I'm not impatient. This is a very important topic. A lot of folks
Okay.
need EP regulatory credits. I don't care how long it takes to discuss this. I don't belittle this process at all. This is very important for a lot of folks. We can approve it as 3 and 1 or 2 and 2, or we could tell them to, or we could table it and say, can you retool it and add more regulatory to it?
Well,
And
there's a
we'll
motion.
reconsider it.
There is a motion to be voted on.
What's the motion?
No, I don't think there is one yet for this.
Yes, I made a motion for 2 and 2, and it was seconded by somebody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't
I
hear
didn't,
that.
I didn't
Okay.
catch that, sorry.
Thank you for the reminder. So why don't we take a vote on that?
Or we can amend that and make it 3 and 1. And then
Let's vote on one at a time.
okay. I'm sorry.
So this is,
Okay.
and Gail provided some reasons why she felt 2 hours was applicable for regulatory out of the 4. Does anyone else want to discuss that?
No, my argument is still the same. No, we would like to have as much DEP credit as possible, but I think we don't want to diminish the importance of it or the thrust of it, that that DEP credit means something and they need to meet certain fairly high threshold that was put in the regulations. So, matter of fact, and if we were to go in that spirit for half an hour of DEP's stand-up presentation, maybe we can go with 1 hour, all of it put together, unless we change.
Well,
the
I didn't
and
look at other courses, but this is exactly how the one in 2017 was approved, 2 and 2, with the same amount of DEP interaction.
half an hour.
But you're talking about the LNAPL course?
No.
No, I didn't look at that. I'm saying I only compared it to another 4-hour course in 2017.
Can we vote on the motion and then?
Sure, we can vote on the motion that Kathy had. Deb,
Yes.
excuse me?
Yes.
Baruch,
No.
Gail,
Yes.
Can you confirm yes is for 2 and 2 and no is against? Okay, is that true?
Yeah. Got it.
oh yes, yes is approving it
That's
for
the motion.
4 hours, 2 technical and 2 DEP regulatory.
Gotcha, thank you.
Jamie,
No.
Greg,
Yes.
Mark,
No.
Kathy,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
David is yes. So
Passes.
6 yeses.
Okay, so the course was for what?
Or
You've changed the denial, right? So that vote is stricken.
There are two
No,
separate
it's
votes.
still a vote. Right. There's 2 votes. One not for 4 hours, this one for 2 and 2.
Okay, denied as presented, 4 hours. And the motion David passed 2 tech and 2 reg, is that right?
yes.
DEP.
All right.
DEP regulation.
Yes, I have that, Deb. Thank you. Okay.
There's a
So,
difference.
I'm sorry?
There is a difference between DEP and regulatory, so I just want to make clear that it's DEP and regulatory.
Yes.
Yes, Deb, I know that. It's 2 technical credits and 2 mass DEP regulatory credits. Is that the vote? Yes?
Correct.
Yes.
It's approved for
Correct.
2 technical credits, and it's approved for 2 Mass DEP regulatory credit.
Correct.
All right. I've
So
got
the
it. Thank you.
The next
We
request
do
is,
need to put on the agenda very soon a way to address this, this problem, because it is a real problem, as we all know. How to get DEP credits. And if there's we need to be having some conversations with DEP to figure out whether they are able to fulfill the obligation that's set up by the regulations. Because if they
Yeah.
can't, we need to be doing something different. And in the short term, we need to maybe have a more practical approach to it that is acceptable to everyone.
Yeah, Wendy Rundle just posted, the LSPA suggests that this line of reasoning for DEP credits be written out as guidance for future course providers and posted on the LSP board website.
Don't disagree.
This is good.
Well,
Well,
we'll see.
It will have to come from the DEP, though. This is not, some of it.
That's exactly right, Farouk. This has to come to DEP. So what I was going to suggest is that we invite Paul Locke and Elizabeth Callahan, who are BWSC folks, of course, to a meeting.
You're not going to invite Fitzy?
I'm sorry?
The Fitzy is not coming to the meeting? John Fitzgerald.
Oh, well, the development of courses falls to the chief, the assistant commissioner and the chief, and that would be Paul Locke and Elizabeth Callahan. So if you want,
Paul signed this memo.
Paul signs all of them for DEP. So if you want, I can invite them to a meeting, not on the September 15th, obviously, in case they're planning on attending that training, but we can invite them for an October meeting if you like. Because I understand that getting DEP credits is a difficult assignment for LSPs. We are addressing that in the reg revision, the proposed reg amendment, in terms of the number of hours required. But in the most immediate future, you can call them in. I don't want to make them defensive about why they aren't offering more courses. If you recall, Susan Fessenden had come to a number of meetings and explained to us how many courses had been offered over the course of 3 years. But this may be something a little different. These are issues of technical versus Mass DEP regulatory. So if you want them to come, I'll extend an invitation.
That'll be great.
I don't know what they would tell us. I'm not sure what we would get out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
I think maybe before they come, we should have a discussion internally to figure out if we had questions for them, what they would be, rather than waste their time coming too soon.
Okay, so next month, that's a good idea. That will allow us prep time. So for the September meeting, I'll add to the agenda a discussion about, and what would you like to talk about specifically? The reg itself, DEP requirements?
Well,
I think we should discuss the topic in multiple ways, one of which is the regulation and the intent of the regulation, and as well as how to interpret it in today's world. I mean, I think that's what we're really talking about.
Okay.
It's also that we want to know whether DEP has the capacity to prepare and give these courses.
This does not have to be. This discussion does not need to be at the public meeting. We can actually have a meeting with Paul and Liz.
Okay.
And
so
I have a telephone conference. That should be just fine.
Well, think because we have so many continuing ed providers, well, I don't know. That's entirely up to you if you want to set up a separate subcommittee meeting for them. But I think that we should have this on the agenda for next month to talk about what you want before you go to DEP and tell them what they have to do. You've got to figure out what the criteria are that they have to meet before you can tell them this is what they have to do.
I think the reasonable way of doing it would be to have this discussion with the DEP, come up with an understanding, and then we can put it on the web page for the future test course providers.
That's fine, Farouk, but if we meet as a quorum, we cannot not have it public, regardless of whether we make it a separate meeting or not. If the board meets as a quorum and discusses board business, it's an official meeting and has to be
We
in
can
the
have a
public.
subcommittee meeting.
No, it doesn't work like that. If there's a quorum of us there, it can't.
Well, we
I
can
remember that from the old day. We were taught very carefully about that in meeting.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
this is
well,
important enough that we should be meeting as the entire group, not just a subset.
Exactly.
I
right.
agree, and there may be other continuing ed providers that want to contribute because some of more often Mass DEP is doing these joint ventures. So I think it's important to have everybody at the table. So I'm going to add a discussion about just DEP regulatory requirements in general on the agenda for September 15th. I'll add that as an item for discussion.
Are you saying you want stakeholders and people outside the board to be included in the discussion?
No, I'm saying that it should be discussed at a public meeting because it's board business.
Okay.
That's all. I mean,
it's hard for those folks to participate by only being able to write comments. That's all.
Is there? Well, I'm open to another suggestion. That was just my suggestion. We don't have to do that.
Right.
I mean, that's up to the board.
Well, first the board has to decide how to interpret its own regulations, and that's what we could be meeting to discuss. How do we want to interpret our regulation, because it exists and we haven't changed it yet? And how do we think that we need to, if we have to, reinterpret that for the current circumstances, just like we reinterpreted some of the other things like the online courses stuff we've had to adapt. So this is one more. Maybe we have to adapt and figure out what this means in a world where the department isn't going to be able to contribute in whole or substantial part. Or what does that mean? Does it mean they reviewed everything and they approved it?
We cannot really, Gail, we cannot say that department cannot. It's not our place to do any of that.
No, I'm saying if they come back and say that. I'm just saying, what do we have to discuss what we believe, what we think before anything else happens. What do we think this means and how can we interpret it? And I agree with you, regardless of what the department does.
Sure seems like it just would.
Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
I was going to say, I mean, honestly, it really just seems like it boils down to the fact that the majority of the board feels like that in substantial part means more actual instruction time by a DEP staff member. I mean, I'm not sure. That seems like that's kind of the way this came down for this vote. So.
No, because that wasn't how I came down on it. I did not come down on the actual teaching part. I came down on the participation and development part. That I think that should be consideration that we need to talk about. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the way I felt about it, but that was my argument for 4 and Mark's. So
well, no, there's a difference between 4 and 2. I mean,
where'd you find
part of 2.
Yeah, where'd you find the extra hour and a half of DEP from the half hour?
Well, first of all, I took it as that if what Wendy's saying is true, and I believe her, that Gerard did look over all this stuff. He participated in discussions with these people. I agree that there are a lot of technical aspects to the guidance, and if it's a matter of saying, well, he wanted to make sure that everything that they were presenting was consistent with guidance, then that adds to a substantial part of being a DEP contribution to the course. Whether he's the one that stands up there, he's still weighed in, and so when you change it to 2 hours and he's talking for half an hour and participating in a Q&A, then you're getting closer to, you know, maybe I suspect that he has weighed in for a
I think the counterproductive to be discussing it anymore at this point. I think it's all done, and we can move forward with the meeting with the DEP at the next meeting, and then go forward from there.
So before we move on, obviously the best fix would be to change the regulations and take care of all this stuff, but there's no way to expedite that process. So the next course request is the Soils Conference, AEHS Foundation, virtual conference, live webinar. They're asking, as usual, a half credit for each hour for the platform sessions, and hour to hour for the seminars or whatever they're called. I forget.
Workshops.
Workshops, yeah, thank you.
Workshops.
Yeah. Motion to approve.
Is this all virtual, by the way?
Excuse me?
It is all virtual.
Yeah, so do we need to have polling and things like that in there, David?
They do not. They say they have software tracking, sign in and sign out, and then nothing else, which would be inconsistent with other approvals that we've provided where we've required or people already said they were going to have random polling to keep track of attendance.
Yeah, something that we can add. We can
we
add
come
to
at for
the
1 hour chunks though. I mean,
excuse me?
Have we done that for 1 hour sessions though? I mean, is it reasonable to ask them to have a tracking question in each session?
We've done them for all, and this isn't just 1 hour. This someone could be sitting there all afternoon in a workshop or a session.
Right.
No, I interpreted it to mean that they had to sign in and sign out of each of the individual workshops. Is that not the way you guys read it?
That would be how
the workshops you do.
The platform
I assume the workshops you would have to, just like you always do. Workshops are different than the sessions.
And the platform sessions would, it seems to me when I looked at the program, that you'd be signing out of one Zoom room and you'd enter a new Zoom room so you could be tracked as to where you are present.
Yeah, if they have tracking software to say you left, then I'm comfortable because that accomplishes the real objective. I mean, granted, you could walk away from your computer and pay no attention.
That's the whole idea. That's the reason.
Realistically,
that's true of most of these at this point.
Yeah, I mean, except for as David said, when you have these random questions popping up, I think that was a really cool idea. Like, well, okay, I better be there.
That makes sense for a class. I was just saying, if folks are going to a seminar and they're signing in and signing out every hour on the hour to go to different sessions, that seems like that probably should be sufficient.
Right.
So what you're saying, Jamie, is because this is a conference and it's only a half a credit for every hour, that's acceptable not to have that other check for attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and because the chunks of time are so small that they're signing in and signing out of, it's hard to argue that someone's not paying attention for, you know, if they're signing in for an hour session and then signing back out and then signing into something else, it seems like that's adequately tracking that they're paying attention because they're moving around all day.
I have a question though, David. Do you know how the polling is done? Is it like software generated just randomly? You know, sometimes just throw in a question, because I don't think a person does it. I think they've got software.
I don't know. I'm not a course provider, but I doubt it's random. I think the providers, LSPA, EBC, etc., say, okay, let's put up a polling question.
It's
and
in
they
the
do it.
slides, right? It's in the slide deck.
But it goes to everybody, right?
Yeah?
I mean, it's
No,
not
it's part, yeah.
individually somebody has to send it. So a person just sits, one person sits there and sends out a polling question to everybody who's present, and then they all respond or not respond. And then so it's not something that's very onerous. It's part of the software package. Even if it's a 1 hour class, one person can be, whoever is teaching the class, somebody's monitoring it, and that monitor can just send out 3 or 4 questions, every 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
No, that's annoying because it interrupts the speaker, and these speakers are only talking for 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's my point. It just seems impractical for a short session like this. I don't know.
And it's not
Yeah,
1-for-1. It's a half credit for every hour.
Okay.
There's a motion.
I just don't understand the software yet, so.
But are we
Okay.
saying that the workshops, we would expect the questions? I mean, we would expect questions in a workshop.
Even the 1 hour webinars we do, right?
Or an assessment of learning. Well, no,
Well,
the workshops are like courses. I mean, we should have something for them because they're getting one-to-one credit.
Yes, to be consistent with others, they need to provide some polling questions or a way to confirm attendance beyond just their tracking software, because that's 1 credit for every hour.
Yes.
And be consistent with other webinars that we're doing, we need to require that. For the workshops where it's half
Yes.
credit per hour, I'm willing to just go with their software tracking sign in and sign out at this point.
You said workshops, but you mean platform sessions where it's.
Yeah, sorry, yep. Platform and workshop.
So can we approve it with the workshops, but require them to provide an assessment of learning? Or do we have to wait?
No, it's not an assessment of learning. It's a polling question because the assessment of learning doesn't work real time that well.
Well, how they deliver their assessment of learning is up to them. We cannot tell them how to.
That's true.
True.
Well, that's true. I don't care how they do it. An assessment of learning piece for the workshop, yes.
We can vote? I
So,
don't understand it very well.
Well, we have to have
How it meets
did
the
we approve it
requirement.
yet? I mean, did we move it yet?
so what you're saying, so Kathy, you're saying that for the workshops, they need to do a secondary tracking of attendance beyond the sign in and sign out, which can be assessment of learning or polling questions.
Yes.
Okay.
So did
So
you
that's
make a
the-
motion, Kathy? Because I'll second it if you did.
So I made a motion that we approve this conference for half technical credit for hour of attendance at platform sessions and 1 technical credit per hour of attendance at workshops, subject to a requirement of an assessment of learning for the workshops.
I'll second that.
I
Any
think
further
it's not
discussion?
assessment of learning, it's polling, right?
The point is that we want to make sure that people are learning and they have to be there to learn. So it's an assessment of learning.
So, I'm sorry, the vote is approved.
We're going to vote right now.
Okay.
We're going to vote on Deb's, I'm sorry, we're going to
David,
vote on
You want to check
Kathy's
in the public? Any public?
proposal. Any other comments from the board or the public? So Deb,
Yes.
Baruch,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
And me is a yes. The next course.
Okay, can you just hold on, Barry?
Oh, yeah.
So what you approved is 1/2 technical credit per hour of attendance at the conference, 1 full hour of technical credit, excuse me, for attendance at the workshop, and you're requiring an assessment of learning for each course.
For workshops.
No, for each workshop.
Assessment of learning for each workshop. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next one is a proposal from Cherry Tree Group. Application is incomplete. I make a motion to deny it.
Second.
Second.
How is it incomplete, David?
They don't talk about how they're going to keep track of attendance, if there's going to be an evaluation. Well, cute. Well, regardless of the content, if it's even applicable or not, the application is totally incomplete.
I don't
Okay,
think the
so
content is applicable.
it was denied for, I know you're going to vote, but it's denied for lack of attendance, meeting the attendance requirement.
Lack of required information in a course request.
Well,
And
shouldn't we normally give
but-
them what they're missing? Don't we normally give them what they're missing?
Yes, we do. That's what I'm trying to ask.
Everything. I don't recall. It was.
Okay, well, somebody has to help me out because I have to let them know why it was denied.
Well,
So-
I think this is Debbie. I think we should discuss the content because I feel we should deny it on the content. So the other,
Okay.
requirements of the course are meeting the requirements.
Okay. So, Deb, when you say content, you're saying lack of relevance to MCP work, hazardous waste site cleanup work?
Right. It's basically a financial and business development course.
In my, when I look at it, actually, it is very relevant to the work that we do. Cherry trees, the tax credit for brownfields development. It's part of the work that we undertake, and it's only one credit they are asking for in here. However, David is right in the sense that they don't have any pieces in there where the attendance will be taken, and somebody will make sure that they're attending the classes. But I think in my mind, the coursework or the content of it is relevant to some parts of the work that we do.
As an
No,
LSP,
I would say it's relevant to the parts of work that you do, but it's not relevant to waste site cleanup, and that's the requirement.
It's actually quite relevant to site cleanup.
It is.
Well,
Yes, I agree with
not
Deb.
under the MCP. It's not relevant to MCP work
Sure it is.
in the sense that they haven't made that connection. I'm sorry, let me be specific. They have to make that connection of how it is relevant to waste site cleanup. That's one of the pieces that's missing.
So I agree with Deb. It's worth discussing the content. I was taking the easy route out and just getting it off the books because the application was incomplete. But if we want to discuss if it's relevant or not at all, we can do that. I agree with Mark. Knowing about the brownfield tax credits is
Very
applicable.
important. Very important. Yep.
under the MCP?
When you approach the cleanup
Not
of a
under the
project,
MCP.
when you approach the cleanup of a project under the MCP, when you're looking at the need for an AUL or not, and your remediation costs and your selection of remediation technologies is going to be based on your ability to capture credit and pay for the cleanup. And all those decisions are going to be based on whether you'll be able to pursue and capture tax credits.
Paying for a cleanup is not part of the MCP.
It certainly is. You got feasibility determinations.
I'm sorry, but it's not.
I agree. It's
That
more
doesn't
of
have
a
anything
business thing. We've approved credits from these folks in the past, but as I recall, that they was tied their agenda much closer to the actual cleanup work than what I've seen
Right.
here.
Okay, and
Right,
can I
and that's
just,
the difference. If they could show you how it's relevant, that's different.
okay, can I just quote the regs here? Technical credit we're talking about. The term should not be narrowly construed so that it reaches only continuing education that is directly concerned with performing such activities. However, if the technical subject matter of the continuing education is more generally focused, it should at least be demonstrably relevant to the scientific and or technical components of response actions at disposal sites in Massachusetts.
Okay, I agree with that, except
Plus, we also said they had to tell us that. We have a requirement.
Yeah.
To get back to Dave's original point, it's an incomplete application.
Yeah, they do
It's
have
an incomplete
to
application,
spell it out.
but we need to tell them why.
well, I also still look at the submittal. What is technical about it?
Good
What is
question.
technical about the submittal?
Good question.
As presented, I don't see that it really is. It's really business related.
Right.
Jamie, you mentioned a previous approval for Cherry Tree?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know we've approved courses from them before.
Yep, we have.
On text grid, yeah.
On similar content or completely different?
They were related to Brownfield's tax credit, but I as I recall, the content was more tailored towards actual like cleanup decisions and the technical aspects of it.
Right. And they could demonstrate that. That's the point.
Yep.
So how about a motion to deny it because the application is incomplete and they have not demonstrated how it's applicable to waste site cleanup decisions?
Perfect. I'll second that.
As well as the other reasons it's incomplete.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I
Any
will
further
second that.
discussion?
It's
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call. Deb,
Yes.
Farouk,
no.
Gail,
Yes. Wait, it's yes for denial, right? Just checking.
correct.
Okay. Got it.
Jamie,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mark,
No.
Kathy,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
David is yes. Are you all set, Beverly?
Yep, I am. Let's move on.
So there's two remaining ones. Midwest Geosciences resubmitted their requests. They eliminated 2 of the 4, and there's 2 that are remaining. This is one that came in today. I like how they use the word fearless more than once.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do folks think about these 2 1-hour offerings?
This is Debbie. For me, it's still kind of a stretch.
I thought the first one was the only one that was, number 2 was the only one that was potentially applicable, and I didn't think number 4 was at all. Let's see. Anyone want to make a motion or further discussion? Or do you want more time since it just came in today?
Sorry, are we talking about the college course one or something else?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking about Midwest Geosciences, the ethics.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh, okay.
in the original request, they provided all the necessary information, and we just were uncomfortable with the content, and they resubmitted for 2 of the 4. that they want us to consider.
I pulled up one. I'm trying to find that one. I know I had it.
It's in the same
Where'd it
document.
go?
Webinar
Oh, it's in the
2,
same thing as the,
Yeah, there's one document.
one document.
oh, there's one document. I just didn't go far enough down in it.
It's dated, it's a letter to Beverly dated July 22nd. And they took the original request and they crossed out 2, and they're providing information on 2 of them, number 2 and 4.
This isn't the one that comes in as no name, right, from Barbara? This is the one that was sent by Beverly today, right?
This is the one that I sent today, yes. And what they did, and Deb sent the second part, what they did was retool those ethics courses.
But you need to go back to the original June request to get the details for each one of the 2.
Right.
I think we could do with a little bit more time on this, David.
Excuse me?
I think we could do with a little bit more time on these.
Yeah, I'd like to look at it.
Sure.
Okay.
I agree. Okay.
All right. So it's tabled until September 15th
Yes.
for further review. Okay, got it.
And then the last one is the college course request from an individual.
This is Debbie. I believe we approved a college course from him in the past, and it's the 12 credits. So that's a significant amount of his technical credits. I don't know if we feel comfortable, half his technical credits coming from geology courses. If that's fine or not. Just a point.
What have we done in the past?
We have definitely approved his course request.
Go ahead.
But this is for
Deb,
12 credits.
But Deb has raised a good point. Do you really want an LSP to garner 12 technical credits from just this one geological course? And this is an LSP who has submitted college courses for credit before. I mean, it's a matter of whether or not you think that he's getting a full compendium of technical requirements that the board wants LSPs to have from this course.
Well, we've approved like 16-hour courses many times before.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that. There's been other 2-day classes where they have a lot
I'm
of.
just saying that this is either the second or third time we've approved courses from this person for this university. So it's either going to be 24 or 36 of his.
Right.
Well, it's really
That's
his technical credits.
I
That's the
don't
point.
know that we can micromanage where people get their credits.
Yeah, we judge that, right?
I've got a question though. Now, the course that he's taking, how many CEUs did he get from the school? Because schools have 4 credit, and we go to class, 6 times or 8 times, and they give you 4 CEUs, right? Something like that. Now, what is this course worth to the school's credit? And their credit structure. I think it may be good to look at.
The board regulations specifically state what you can do with college courses.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And the only question we could ask is how much of what he's taking is directly relevant to the practice. And I'm not sure. He's pointing that out. He's giving us the citations. I think that, but whatever it is, did he say? Wait a minute. Did he say how it's relevant to waste site cleanup? Yep, he did.
It's a geology course.
Yeah, but
it's all relevant.
Here's the thing. We've given credit for field trips, right? And certainly I would never argue that the study of structural geology is not relevant because you have to understand it, but whether all of this course is directly relevant to that, I don't know. I'm going to have to say we give credit for field trips, and we do for legitimate reasons. Then we have to give credit and say this is relevant.
I wasn't saying
I do
that
agree
isn't
with
relevant.
Deb. I agree with Deb that it is a problem that so many of his credits will be from college courses.
But the board does not
And
get into
honestly,
that business. If an LSP wanted to take 10 classes on vapor intrusion over his 3-year period, like we don't
you can't stop
regulate
them.
that.
Right, there's nothing
We
in the
don't-
No,
regs to
that's
allow
right.
it. We don't have that right in the regs to
Right.
do that.
No, we do not. So
No.
if the course itself is eligible, then I think we should approve it. And I think that it is.
And he's
the
willing to
question-
take a college course.
No,
Yeah, I don't think
again,
we
you
can
know,
say it isn't.
for attendance purposes, you know, in college, let's say you go to class for 8 hours class time and you get 4 hours of CEU, college CEU, right?
No,
so-
it doesn't work like that.
I know.
Farouk. We have something in the regulations that specifically spells out how we handle college courses. It is what it is.
What is that?
Well, what do you want to know about college courses? I have the regs
We put
here.
Yes,
in
please
the
listen
regs
to
how to
it.
handle them.
So
Right.
college, yep, college courses, conferences, okay. Maximum credit for university or college courses. I'm reading from 3.09 section 8. Courses approved as part of a university or college curriculum may be approved by the board for credit equivalent to 70% the total number of classroom hours if the course is taken for a grade and the licensee passes, or 50% of the total number of hours of classroom or 50% of the total number of hours of classroom instruction if the course is not taken for a grade.
Okay, there we go.
Right.
Let's look
So
at that.
it doesn't limit how many courses, but
He
So this
tells
one-
us all the information. We just haven't added it up. That's all.
So this
If you
one is
look at
taken
what-
for a grade, so it's 70% of whatever the total
It
classroom
adds up to
instruction.
be.
It's 50 to 70%, right?
No,
well,
it's,
the 50% if it's not taken for a grade.
Okay,
It's 70% if the course is taken for a grade and the licensee passes. I don't know how you can approve that because he hasn't taken the course and he hasn't passed it, right? I don't know.
no. He'll have
How
to
you-
submit when we'll submit it 70% of whatever the total is if he passes, but he's going to have to send in some kind of course. You'll have a course approval request, and maybe we just need the information when he's done, when he submits his renewal.
Well, like I said, he's
How
done
have we
it
done it in the
before.
past? This isn't the first one. How has it been handled in the past? This is like his third request.
but that doesn't matter. I think he requested for a 4-hour credit. I think that's what he requested, right?
No, he
Well,
isn't. He's requesting, that's right there, 12
12
hours. Number of continuing education credits requested is 12 hours.
Wouldn't
And
this be
that may
easier?
be 50% of the total. But according to his class times, he's going to be in class 5 hours per week from the end of August to December. So realistically, if he's only requesting 12 credits, 70%, I mean, even
4-hour
50%,
credit
that'd
for
be
school.
24 hours of
It's a
class time.
4-hour credit for school, right?
No.
That's
If
got
school gives
that doesn't
4
factor
it's
into
not-
the calculation.
No, that's immaterial.
Why not?
Hold on.
Why is it?
Because the way the
Wouldn't
regs
it-
state, it's by the number of classroom hours, and which and Gail's right. It's 5 hours a week, how many weeks long is it? We can
12.
calculate that.
It looks like, just go with 12 and see how that works. 12 times 5 is 60 hours that he'd be in class.
Could I make a
So if
suggestion?
he's only requesting 12 credits, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Nope.
But we don't know if he's going to take it for credit or if he's taking it for credit, whether he passed. So wouldn't it be easier to table this, just point out the regulatory citation to him and ask him to take the course and then request the approval? And we will approve it
No, because
according
he
to that regulation.
he took the course. First of all, he had to request it before he took the course, number one, which he did. And number two, we have done this before for him. How did we handle it in the past? This will be, I think, the third request. So we have two other examples when we have done something for him, approving his course. How did we
All
handle
of that's
that?
irrelevant to it. What I care about is this one. And to me, where if we approve this, it's a hypothetical because he hasn't taken it yet. We don't know if he's passed it, if that's his intention. And he's going to have to present that information to us anyway. Why don't we just defer it until he's completed and then he can apply for the credit, which will be
We
approved.
have to tell him it's at least approvable. We should be able to tell him it's approvable if he provides the information saying whether he passed or not. But in either case, 12 credits is less than half
But Greg, I
of the
think
hours that he'll spend in class.
what we did in the past, Greg, is I think we approved it with the condition that the person then has to provide the information that they passed the course.
Yeah, and that would just come in with the renewal.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't get the credits until it's just like going to a conference. You approve the conference and you still have to go and show that you've been there to get the credits. You get the credits when you submit your application and the paperwork. So I see it the same thing.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm going to make a motion to
approve it.
I'll
I
second.
make a motion to approve it as proposed.
Second.
Somebody's, okay.
Any further discussions from the public or the board?
No.
So the course was approved.
We haven't voted
We're
yet.
going to do the roll
Gotta
call.
vote.
We're going to do the roll call, yes. Any other comments?
No.
So we'll go through the roll call. Deb,
Yes.
Farouk,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
Kathy. Kathy, you still there?
Yep.
Kirk?
Yes.
And David is a yes.
Okay,
All right,
so and so what did you vote to do, please?
It's approved for the 12 CEUs upon completion of the course and proof of passing.
Okay, thank you.
Or
We-
not
we've done
passing.
this-
With 12 credits, he just has to take the course, proof of attendance.
What?
Oh, because
He
it's
actually
less than
doesn't have to
50%.
pass it.
It's
Right.
less than 50%. You're right.
Okay,
He has to
so
prove he attended. That's
70% if he passes, just the regulations,
No.
and 50% if there's no credit.
No.
I'm sorry, there's
No.
no.
He actually only he only requested 12 credits.
Which
And
is
that's
less
less
than
than half.
50%.
Okay, so it's approved if he passes the course.
No, it's approved for 12 credits if he provides proof of attendance. That's all he has to do.
Okay.
All right, I have one question from the audience from Samuel Butcher. Has Midwest Geoscience provided an adequate information to support the request for approval of credits for the hydrology of glacial deposits class?
Wouldn't we have to go back to last month to check?
Can you reread the question, please?
Has Midwest Geoscience provided adequate information to support their request for approval of credits for the hydrology of glacial deposits class?
I don't know off the top of my head. Is this something from July?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, Mr. Butcher, this is Beverly Roby. Would you email me, please, directly with your question, and I'll make sure that we get it answered. If it's from July, I would have the record, so please, Mr. Butcher, email me directly. Beverly.Roby, R-O-B-Y, @mass.gov.
I don't see it on the agenda for last month.
Oh, then
Yeah.
maybe they haven't.
Yep, I'll have to see. I'll have to see. So.
Yeah, I don't see it. Maybe it was the previous month.
I don't know that rather
They
than
do have a bunch of-
So
sort it out. I'll sort it out with Mr. Butcher.
I'm going to adjourn the meeting and we'll meet again in September.
Yep.
So
And
moved.
it's 2:26 p.m.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you, David.
Yep.
Are we gonna take a vote? So moved.
Excuse me?
We just cancel. We
Do
just
we have to
end
make
it?
a motion to adjourn?
Yep. A motion to adjourn. So moved, and then somebody can vote.
Somebody has to second it. I'll second it.
Okay.
We can take a break.
Yes.
No, don't we have to vote? Or do we have to vote to adjourn is the question.
No,
We
I don't
did-
think so.
No,
No.
we didn't.
Okay,
No, the
all
last 2 months we did not.
right.
No. No vote.
I'm good with that.
I vote for 10-minute break.
Granted.
Second. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Yes.
No.
Aye.
See you in 10. Hey, Chris, question for you.
Yep.
Is there a way to for panelists to actually see the attendees other than the other panelists?
Let me see. If you go to, let me move this, under attendees, there should be two
Yep.
tabs. One says attendees, which would be non-panelists, and the other says staff, which would be organizers, presenters, and panelists. Do you have two tabs?
No, I only have a staff one.
Yeah, okay. Then, yeah, it doesn't look like it. Right now, there are 4 attendees. And it says, so I can see who they are. I believe, along with the statistics that we get as we record the meeting, we get a list of attendees that logged in, and I think when they log out too. So I think all that information is available. I'd have to go over it to see though, because I know it saves a text message of all the questions and things like that that are asked in both the questions section and the chat section.
Is it possible to unmute attendees if they want to address the board, or is it restricted only to chat for attendees?
It's restricted. To tell you the truth, I don't know.
I think it's restricted so that they can only ask questions, written questions, not so that they can participate in the conversation. That was the way it was set up after the Zoom bombing.
Yeah. It looks like I can't unmute somebody. Like, so right. even as an organizer, I can't unmute them. So.
Right.
Okay. I was just curious what the limitations were. We've been experimenting with different platforms at my office too, and we are trying to get community participation and so forth. So while we have it set up so that everyone is muted, if someone wants to address, the organizer is able to individually allow folks to speak, but that's a different platform. That's Cisco WebEx.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, as we get the hang of all these things, I think, especially Victoria has been messing around with a bunch of different platforms, and weighing security and also ways to increase participation. So that definitely can be an ongoing discussion where we can figure out how to better involve the public, but also limit what kinds of like who says what and where and when, that kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, it's been a pretty big part of our conversation in our office. So just curious what you guys were doing in that regard.
Is there a limit on how many can be on screen?
On screen? Yeah, I think 6. Yeah, this platform can handle 6 video feeds at a time.
Gail, Deb, David, Kirk, let me know when you're back so I can start professional conduct.
I'm ready.
Deb's
Oh,
here.
we're missing a few. Okay. Gail's in.
We just need to do a roll call and see who's on the line.
Beverly, were you going to do that or are you waiting for me?
No, you're co-chairperson, so you well, I'll go ahead and set it up. Okay, so on the line for the professional conduct meeting, this is August 11th, 2020. This meeting is being recorded, and on the line we have Jamie Smith, and who else, please?
Kirk?
Kirk Franklin, yes.
Gail,
Gil,
Gail,
yes.
Debbie Listerbeck.
Others? Thank you, Deb. Others?
Kathy?
Thank you, Kathy. And Farouk and
Mark
Greg?
Richards?
Mark Richards and Greg on the line.
Greg is here.
Thank you, Greg. And
David is here.
David. Did I miss anyone other than Chris Borges? Nope.
Kirk?
Okay. Yes, I did get Kurt Franklin.
All right.
So on the line, Jamie, Kurt, Gail, Deb, Kathy, Farouk, Mark, Greg, David, and Chris Borges.
All right. I'm going to call to order the professional conduct committee meeting, August 11th, 2:46 p.m.
Quick question, Jamie. Is it possible to read what the public who's listening? Can Chris read that off or no?
I can if you want me to.
We could practice.
There are 6 attendees. Kevin Kavanaugh, Christy Lefebvre, Lori McCarthy, Neil Kelly, Wendy Rundle, and Wes Simpson.
I'm sorry, Christy, Wes, Neil Kelly, Wendy, and who else?
Kevin Kavanaugh, Lori
Kevin
McCarthy.
Kelly. And Lori McCarthy. Thank you. I'm all set.
Okay. First order of business was the discussion of draft minutes. I presume the same applies. The January, February minutes should be updated on the website in short order, and we will be posting the feed, the the recording of the meetings for the ones that were virtual. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay. So old business, status of the CRTs when you are ready, Beverly.
05C, we're going to have to set up an executive session to discuss that, and we can do that before the end of the meeting today. 20C03, I'm going to talk about in just 1 second. I am disposing of 20C04 by saying that I believe that the complainant has submitted now all of the documents that she wanted included in the complaint, and I have started reviewing them. With respect to, and these are the only reports I have today, with respect to 20C03, that case was filed on April 29th, 2020. It was filed by a citizens group, a member of a citizens group against an LSP. This has to do with the Weymouth compressor station. I am going to administratively dismiss this case based on the fact that the board doesn't have jurisdiction. Now, the four issues or the four allegations made against the LSP are as follows. The LSP was rude, combative, and dismissive.
That's all of us.
The LSP made exaggerated crying gestures. He bent at the waist. He balled up his fist and moved his eyes in pantomime. Another member of this board asked for eye contact, and they had to ask him to pay attention. And they said that he laughed at them. That was the first allegation, that he was unprofessional when interacting with the public. That is not a violation of Section 4.0. The second allegation was that the LSP was not the LSP of record for the project. That is not a violation of 4.0. The third allegation was that the LSP did not make an independent assessment. I don't know how you figure that out. What the complainant basically indicated was that the LSP consulted with others, attorneys on the project, other folks, collaterals, none of which violate Section 4.0. The last allegation was somewhat convoluted. The LSP was from a different company than the LSP of record. So, as I said, on those bases, under 7.0, there's no reason to form even a screening committee unless the board thinks otherwise based on the allegations I've just given. And it certainly doesn't rise to the level of a complaint review team being established.
Any comment from the board? That seems clear enough to me. do we need to make any kind of motion on that, or are you within
Nope.
your ability to
Nope.
dismiss? Or
I'm just letting the board know that those were the 4 allegations, and based on those 4 allegations, I don't think that there's jurisdiction under 4.0. There's no need for you to take a vote. You know, it's just up for discussion.
okay.
And that was all I had.
Wes says, what happened to 20C01 and 02?
20C01 and 02 are being investigated by me.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't been assigned to a screening team. And it's been, and I can just share this with you, 20C01 and 02. It's been complicated by COVID because I was attempting to conduct interviews with some of the recipient witnesses, and COVID complicated being able to meet with them. So they're still there. They haven't gone anywhere. It's just a matter of me starting the investigation by conducting interviews of about 5 people.
To that point, Beverly, I was thinking maybe I understand that these dockets are the only ones you had reports on this time around, but because it's been a number of months, maybe it would be helpful just to do a quick review. I know that some of them are, in adjudication process or in court that aren't going to move until the courts move, but maybe just a quick review of where each of them stand for next meeting.
I don't have that information.
Oh no, I'm saying for next meeting, if we could just do a quick summary of all of the cases, because we haven't discussed them some of them in any detail in several months.
Absolutely.
Great.
Can we also get a copy of the summary spreadsheet? Do you still plan sending that out, Beverly?
I have no way of creating that. You're talking about the spreadsheet that I was doing for the meeting?
Yes.
I have no way of creating
that. Is there any new business to discuss?
I've got a question. What is it that we can do to have that table created? Because that's a very useful one.
I don't know, Farouk. I'll look into it. That's all I can say to you. I don't know.
Oh, I guess the one other follow-up I had on 20C04. So it sounds you're starting your review. Do you expect to have like a redacted complaint for discussion next meeting, or?
I don't know whether or not the complainant has submitted quite a few documents, and I don't know if I'm going to get through them by next month, but maybe.
Okay.
So it depends on whether or not once I review the documents, I'll know whether or not we need to establish a screening team or whether it's going to go the way of administrative dismissal based on failure to state a claim. I mean, the complainant submitted quite a few documents, but I'm not sure, like 20C03, that he or she has stated a justiciable claim. So I'll do the best I can.
Okay.
To report on the other cases, to get a table together, and investigate 20C01 and 20C02. And what else did you ask for? A report on 20C04.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Is there any other new business? Beverly?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, barring any other comments or questions from the board or the public, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a
Second.
second?
Second,
Second.
second.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned at 2:58.
Okay, I'm going to go right into the board meeting since Millie's not here, and establish that we have a quorum, and again, repeat that this meeting is being recorded. So on the line, we have Jamie, Kurt Franklin, Gail Batchelder, Deb Listerneck, Kathy Campbell, Farouk Sadiq, Mark Richards, Greg McBride, David Austin, Chris Borges, and Chris, you can tell me, is Wes still on the line? Christy?
Yes. Kevin, Kavanaugh, Christy, Lori, Neil Kelly, Wendy, and Wes.
Very good. And again, the meeting's being recorded. So, are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the draft agenda? Hearing
Beverly,
none.
this is just a point of order that I don't know if it matters, but does it have to be
Sure.
a board member that does the chair in Millie's absence?
There's
Like
no
a member of the
regulation.
board? Oh,
There's
okay.
there's nothing about that in anything. I did look, Gail, to see whether or not we needed to have a board member, and we don't. As you know, in the past, board members have conducted in the absence of the chairperson. So there's nothing in open meeting law or anywhere else that I could find that said that the meeting has to be conducted by a board member, unless the board wants to have a board member conduct it. I'm fine with that.
No, I was just curious because it's we've always replaced somebody with another board member, so I didn't know.
Yeah, I know Bob Loers and some others have conducted meetings in Janine Comerford's time and others, but I also know that Alan Pierce conducted some meetings way back
okay.
in the historical minutes. And I'm trying to think if Terry Wood, if I saw her name as having conducted a meeting. I'm not sure, but nope, there's no regulatory or statutory requirements. Okay, so
this is Kathy.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Beverly, this is Kathy. I think you have to put somewhere in the agenda my email request, maybe under other licensing matters.
Yes, your query will add that there.
Thank you.
Under other licensing matters. Yep. Okay. We have the same discussion of the minutes that we are going to post links, I guess, is the agreement, and on the advice of the Attorney General's office. Okay, so there was a new renewal docket that was sent out today because we.
Beverly, I have
Yes,
a question. I assume the first online meeting that was Zoom bombed, that recording's not going to be posted as a meeting minute.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think we really got to any business, did we?
We didn't do any business.
Well, we did start. There was a call to order, but I don't think that it would be appropriate, and I would object to it being posted online. I don't think that we can post, just as a matter of common sense, I don't think we can post profanity on the board's website. So
I'm just confirming. We're all in agreement.
Yes. Well, certainly I am.
You're muted.
We are.
You're muted, Farouk.
Do we need to approve meeting minutes to post on the web? Not like.
Well, I, that's an interesting question, and I'm gonna put that on the agenda for discussion after you've reviewed. I have a note to send you the Attorney General Office advisory opinion on posting minutes. So I'll send it to the board, and we can make sure that it's up for discussion at the next meeting. Because the minutes do have to be approved in a timely manner, but the other part of it is a transcript is a transcript, and it speaks for itself. So we might need further guidance, but you have to remember that it's not required. But I'm going to send all the board members exactly what the Attorney General, the Division of Open Government sent me in response. And I'll make sure that it's an agenda item for next month. Is that satisfactory to everyone?
Yep.
Hearing no further discussion, I'll move on. The next item on the agenda, I'm under 5A, is to vote on the renewal dockets. And as I was saying, there was a new renewal docket that was sent out this morning. And there were several names that were added. They were highlighted in yellow: Kevin Kavanaugh, David McLean, and Stephen Graham. And the reason you get so many iterations of the docket is because people, Barbara accepted right up until the very last minute documents that were late filed from LSPs and reviewed them via email. So renewal docket number 1, there are 22 names listed there. Please note whether or not you should recuse yourself from voting to approve. That said, is there a motion to approve renewal docket number 1?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Can we have a roll call vote, please, on renewal docket 1?
Beverly, do I need to be recused? Beverly, do I need to be recused? Because my husband's on it?
Well, I mean, do you think you should be recused? Are you voting impartially? That's not a question for me. It's a question for you.
I can vote impartially. I can vote impartially. I'm good.
If the board has any other thoughts.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yep, I see him there, number 7. If you can vote and the other board members don't have an objection, that's up to them. Hearing no further discussion, let's have a roll call vote on renewal docket number 1 to approve renewal docket number 1. Jamie?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Kathy, Kathy,
Yes.
thank you. Farouk,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
very good. Renewal docket number 1 is approved. Renewal docket number 2, there are 23 names on that docket. Are there any recusals?
I should recuse myself.
You should probably talk on number 10.
Can't be impartial.
Yes. We'll note that you recused yourself from voting to approve your renewal.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Hold on one second. And renewal docket number 2, there's motion on the floor to approve it, and the roll call vote. Jamie,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Farouk, with the exception of number 10.
I'm recused, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you recused from voting on number 10 yourself.
No.
Oh,
And
yes.
that's
But everybody else is yes.
yes, that's noted in the record. Thank you. Mark,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
Thank you. Renewal docket number 3. There's one name there, and can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yep. All right, and the roll call vote is Jamie,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Farouk,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and David. Thank you.
Yes.
Renewal docket number 3. Thank you, David. Renewal docket number 3 is approved. The next item on the agenda is application review panel number 308. I met with the application review panel, Mr. McBride, Mr. Sadiq, and Ms. Listernick on July 28th. They voted on both applicants, and Ms. Elliott's application was approved. The panel members felt that she had the relevant professional experience, the total professional experience, and to the best of their knowledge, she was of good moral character and should be permitted to sit for the exam. Ms. Listernick felt that she had very strong references, and Mr. McBride agreed. Mr. Sadiq also agreed that she had a good application. So the recommendation with respect to Ms. Elliott is that she be approved to sit for the exam.
Motion to approve the recommendation of the ARP.
There's second.
Second.
Thank you. And a roll call vote. James,
Yes.
Kathy, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Kathy, yes. Gail,
Yes.
thank you. Deb,
Yes.
Farouk,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and Mr. Austin.
Yes.
Okay, so motion passes unanimously. The recommendation of the panel 308 is to approve the application of Ms. Elliott, and she will receive notice. There was another panel member on ARP 308. It was a reapplication, Mr. William Brochu. The panel did not think that Mr. Brochu had the relevant professional experience. They felt that he had the total professional experience, excuse me, and to the best of their knowledge was of good moral character, but they recommended that the applicant not be eligible to sit for the exam. There were a number of comments about whether or not, and you guys can join in, whether or not the applicant was the principal decision maker on some of the jobs that he claimed. They said that even the references indicated that he oversaw the work of subcontractors and managed consultants, which did not make him a principal decision maker. They were unsure about whether or not Mr. Brochu had direct involvement in field work, but they decided overall that there were some aspects of his employment in particular when he worked for Sunoco, that he might have been making some decisions in the field, but it wasn't clear. On the basis of that discussion, the panel members recommended that Mr. Brochu's application to sit for the exam be denied. And we're open for discussion.
Motion to
Hearing no
approve the recommendations of the panel.
Hearing no further discussion, I believe Mr. Smith just made a motion.
That was Ms. Campbell, actually, but I'll second it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So there's a motion on the floor that was seconded to deny approval to applicant William Brochu. Can I have a roll call vote, please? Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And yes, I means yes to the denial. Mr. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Batchelder?
Yes.
Ms. Listernet?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Sadiq?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Richards. Yes.
Richards, I'm sorry. Mr. Richards. You're like, who's that? Mr. McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Austin?
Yes.
All right, so the recommendation is that the application be denied. I'll draft a letter and it will be reviewed by ARP panel members 308. All right. We have a new application, and I wanted to ask for volunteers to sit on this application review panel.
Beverly, did you send the recusal forms on this one? I don't remember seeing it.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
You didn't get it?
It might have just gotten buried. I don't remember seeing it.
Do you want to see it? Do you want me to send it again or give you
I can tell you right now I don't need to be recused.
Okay.
You need volunteers?
Yes.
I'll take one.
I can do one.
This is Kathy. I can do one.
There's only one person on the panel, so all right, thank you. Kathy has volunteered. Farouk has volunteered. We need a third.
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Go ahead,
Need a
Jamie.
non-LSP.
Oh, non-LSP.
It can't. It's a non-LSP.
I'll take it.
I'm sorry. Who was that? I didn't.
Jamie.
Thank you. Okay. All set. We will email you that file. So the annual fee report, we had a number of folks who in July had not paid their annual fees. There were 23 of them. We are now down to 18 folks as of August 8th who still have not paid their annual fee. So they are receiving certified letters about that. There are, so that's the annual fee report. The quarterly fee report for April 30th, those folks have been granted under COVID-19 Executive Order number 41 an extension until October 1st, 2020. So they're not in this count. The quarterly report for July, we still have, as of right now, 11 folks who have not either paid their fee or submitted their renewal application. So they will be getting letters.
Hey, Beverly?
Yes.
It's Mark. I think we talked about it last time about potentially certified letters going to offices where people are not actively visiting. Is there a way we can email these recipients also, or no?
We have email addresses for them, but the regs require us to do certified letters.
I think you meant above and beyond the certified letter, just to make sure that it was reaching them.
Yeah, just the concern that it arrives and no one sees it. That's all.
Well, that's their problem, though, Mark, to make sure that their license is renewed. I mean, as a courtesy, when I had staff, I used to call every single person. I'm not able to do that anymore. And it's entirely burdensome on, too burdensome on Barbara to send these folks emails and a certified letter. I think you know, folks have to take responsibility. I'm going to talk a little bit about the fact that so many people waited until the very last minute to file their July renewals. And I'm talking about people who have been LSPs for 20 years. I had one LSP with whom I exchanged 17 emails. People were FedExing their documents on July 28, 2020, and asking us if we received it.
Well, that means our message from last month got out then, didn't it?
Well,
historically,
and frequent the people, a number of the folks who were last minute in previous years. The folks who are newly licensed are very good about keeping up with when they have to renew their license. But Mark, you had a comment about this. We're just discussing.
yeah, I was just curious how it possibly compared to previous years. If this is the most delinquent LSPs we've seen in history. That's all.
No, it's not.
Okay.
No, these are not numbers we typically have with respect to the annual fees. And some of these folks, I think, are going to retire. There are at least 2 former board members on the list of people who have not paid their annual fee. Some of the board members, I know for a fact, 2 of them were licensed for more than 20 years. So it's a lot of babysitting. I just think it's a lot of babysitting. And I understand your concern, but the majority of the people managed to get, as I said at the last meeting, the majority of the folks make sure that they get their stuff in on time.
Well, we were worried there was going to be a big disaster once we heard about the July renewal, and if we're only missing 11, that doesn't sound like it's much worse than normal, so that's a good thing.
I agree.
That's what I was going to ask as a follow-up to our long discussion in the last meeting.
Right.
It ended up only being roughly 11.
About the same as any other year, if not less. I mean, you know, this is the thing about, and also there was a lot less confusion than you anticipated. I got some angry email. I got about 3 angry emails about being treated differently by the governor and whether or not there was a grace period. I mean, come on, guys. If it's due on the 30th and I say it's due on the 30th, then send it in.
Did we send emails last month? I thought we talked about Chris pulled together an email list. Did we do that or no?
I pulled together an email list and was going to do it the Saturday before the 30th, but I was on vacation and I had no internet access.
Gotcha.
So the emails never went out.
Thank you.
But I did notify people. Yeah, I did notify people in my office to be expecting late notifications so that any notification we did get from the board or LSPs, they could look into immediately to make sure people's licenses didn't lapse. Yeah, because that was complicated by the whole fact that I wasn't around that whole week.
Well, again, the invoices went out. People know when their licenses expire because they know when they need the courses. And if only out of that number of LSPs, 11 failed to meet the 30th deadline. Again, a lot of people wait till the last minute, and they shouldn't. In a time of COVID, for people to FedEx us something on the 28th and think that it's going to be there in time when the building isn't even open is crazy. What we did do this year, and we have done it in the past in emergencies, if mail was lost or an LSP claimed that they sent their documents to the bank instead of following the instructions and sending it to the LSP board directly, we allowed them to email. So some of the late additions to the renewal docket and what was driving EDEP crazy probably was that Barbara was continually adding to the renewal docket and updating it. So we accepted folks up until yesterday to add to the docket because they were able to scan and email their documents. I mean, I call that bending over backwards.
I agree. That's good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now down to the petitions for waiver. We want to, I think we should add Kathy's petition or her request for discussion, and then go to the one petition for waiver that you received in the packet. Kathy, did you want to make a statement or initiate discussion?
It should be there in the email. I'm asking the board to vote to rescind the vote in June, on June whatever, to grant me a 90-day extension because I do not need the 90-day extension. And I guess I'm held to it if it doesn't get rescinded.
Motion to rescind as requested.
I second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on Ms. Campbell's request to rescind the 90-day extension. Give me a second. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Batchelder?
Yes.
Ms. Listernick?
Yes.
Mr. Sadiq?
Yes.
Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Austin?
Yes.
Thank you.
I will
All
be
right,
down
the
as
next-
that. I would be listed as
Beverly?
abstaining.
Do we now have to vote on approving her renewal because she has all her documents in, or was she on the list?
I don't, let me see, was she on the list?
I was not on the docket.
She was on.
Yeah, so we have to vote.
Yeah,
I thought
you're
she was on a
right.
We
previous
have to,
docket.
basically, we have to vote. Let's just vote.
All right.
Be safe.
And so
I
we are
move
now.
that we approve her renewal.
Second.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Franklin,
Yes.
Dr. Batchelder,
Yes.
Ms. Listernick,
Yes.
Mr. Sadiq,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Mr. Austin. Okay. So.
And I will be an abstain for both of those.
Yes. Actually, you're recused from voting.
Okay.
Abstention indicates that you had a choice. You didn't have a choice. Okay, so we are now at 6D, the petitions for waiver, and there was one. You should have had it, and we're open for discussion on Mr. DeCoulis's petition for a waiver. I just want to remind everybody who needs to recuse themselves if you choose to from voting. You can do so at when that time arises, but it's up for discussion now under 2.12.
I have a question. Why was that different from the other request for the 90-day extension? I figured there must be a reason.
I don't know.
That's what I don't know.
You know,
Why is there a separate petition compared to other folks who got the extension?
I think it's probably because he didn't meet the requirements for a 90-day extension.
He didn't have enough credit. He didn't have. Is that Deb?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's in the letter.
Yes. Yes. He didn't have enough credit.
So the 75 up to a certain, yeah, I get it.
You know, you have to. Yes, David. You know, you know this. You have to have up to a certain number of credits to even ask for the 90-day extension. So it appears that Mr. DeCoulis did not have enough credits to qualify. Is that right? He should have listed. I don't have it in front of me, which is why I'm asking.
This is what Farouk spoke about last month, thinking that there are going to be a lot of folks in this situation. So this is one person that met that.
Yeah, just that one. Just that one.
Well, and the other thing I noticed is I happened to go online to see statuses of stuff, and the other people that were on that list, or at least a couple that were on the list, their status has the new date, right, for their licenses, and his says lapsed.
Yeah, his says lapsed because it hasn't. He didn't get anything to us by the 30th, so that's what happens. It automatically converts to lapsed.
Okay.
So if you grant him the extension, if you allow his petition for waiver and whatever extension he's requested, then we'll change it. But if you didn't pay your fee, but submitted your documents, you're lapsed. If you paid your fee and didn't submit your documents, you're listed as lapsed. And that happens automatically, unless we hear from you. If we hear from you, then we change it. But that didn't happen in Mr. DeCoulis's case. So we received the petition. You're evaluating it under the standard of 2.12.
And the only reason is because he didn't get it in before the 30th. That's the reason he's different.
No, there are two things, I think. Didn't have enough credits and didn't get it in time.
No. But I mean, he's requesting the petition. He doesn't need the credits. I'm saying the reason he wasn't in the same category as the others is because he didn't get it in by the 30th.
I don't know that.
Is that correct, Beverly?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. What's the date on it?
Submitted a petition for waiver.
The date's the
29th.
Yeah,
that's pretty telling.
Well, the other point is that because he's misinterpreted the order number 41 because they don't get the October 1st extension. That was for the previous group.
Right.
Yeah, right. No, he doesn't. That was for the April 30th quarterly renewals. They got the October 1st extension.
Well, that's why I was wondering, is he actually late? Is this the second extension he's requested? That's why I was wondering what had actually transpired that caused him to be different.
I see. No, he's a July renewal.
Normally. And so he really
Yes.
should have been, if I'm understanding correctly, he should have been on the same list and treated the same way as all the others, except that he requested a weird date instead of the 90-day extension. Is that it?
Well,
Yeah.
we don't know if he had, we don't know that he had enough credits for
No,
the
if he
90-day
doesn't-
extension.
How much does he have to have? How many credits does he have to have for the 90 days extension?
I'll tell you right.
36?
36 out of the 48.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know that part of the, okay. I'd forgotten
Yep.
that there was that other requirement.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
he-
you have to under 3.06 section 6, you have to have all but 12 or
Oh,
fewer credits to apply. And this is 3.06 section 5. You have to submit a completed application that demonstrates that you have earned all but 12 or fewer continuing education credits to even qualify for the 90-day extension.
so he's not eligible. And
Correct.
Which is why he's filing a petition.
I
He's
get
not
it. Now I
eligible.
get it. Okay, now it
He's
makes
not
sense.
eligible.
But if I'm not mistaken, there isn't anything we can do for him, really, because there's no excuse, there's no actual explanation for why, because more than a certain number of those had to have happened before March. To be that far behind as of March is pretty far behind.
Exactly.
So also, I do want to point out, this isn't the first request he's made for an extension. He at least one other time he requested an extension because he moved, his office moved or something. So this is, so he knows the rules because he's already tried to use them.
Well,
So-
you can also frame it in terms of the specific language of 2.12. Is there good cause? You have to analyze. First of all, he did pay his fee, which he's required to do no matter what. But it's a question of whether or not he has stated good cause for waiving the 90-day requirement. I forget what date he's asking for, but
October 1st.
Do you have that
I think.
clause in front of you by chance, Beverly?
Yeah, yes,
I'm sorry.
Do you have that 2.12 in front of you by chance?
yes, I do. And it reads, in pertinent part, notwithstanding any of the requirements, limitations, provisions, and/or set forth in 309, sections 1.0 through 8.0, any licensee may petition the board for good cause shown, which means demonstrated, to waive any requirement, limitation, or provision, or waive or extend any deadline. And the board shall, in its sole discretion, approve or deny any such petition. The board shall require the licensee to demonstrate why the petition is within the spirit of the board's regulations and is not contrary to public interest. Under no circumstances shall the board approve a petition for waiver of fees or waiver of any rules of professional conduct set forth in 4.0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So going back to something that Deb said, you're saying his fourth paragraph there, he's misquoting or not referencing the executive order number 41 correctly?
Yeah,
That applies.
only the April 30th group gets the
Okay.
extension to October 1st. I mean, maybe it's
That's right.
coincidence that he's using the same date, but I don't think it's by coincidence.
Okay, so
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and also just to clarify that the pandemic would have only been in the last 6 months of the 3-year renewal period.
Right. That was kind of my point too. With the amount of credits that you had to have, he would be almost done. And look at all the people that did manage to make, not just get all their credits in, but all the people that got their 36 or whatever it is in. It's almost the entire body of people. So there have been sufficient continuing education credits offered during the 3-year period.
And I want to say, you know, you guys were very, very worried about people falling through the cracks. And I said to you at the July 22nd meeting, I bet you most of these people are going to get this done, because the majority of people do not wait until the last minute. Sometimes things happen. They get closed out of DEP classes. That's why we have the 90-day extension as a construction to avail people of an opportunity when they didn't have one. So, you know, this is what we got. One petition.
Right.
I would like to make a motion to deny the request for a waiver based on a lack of a compelling reason.
And Beverly, if you don't think I should be recused, I would like to second it, but I will.
Let me talk about recusal and this whole thing separately. First of all, Kathy's motion is, and Kathy, let me clarify with you first. If I understand you, you're saying that there's no good cause stated.
Yes.
And maybe somebody else should second it just because of the CRT.
Pursuant to 212. Okay, David, you're seconding. Okay, so the separate discussion about recusal, if you think that you can vote impartially on this, then you can vote. If you think for any reason that you're not able to be impartial, or that there is the appearance of not being impartial, because it's more, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, all of that business. So,
okay. Because I'm on a CRT, Beverly, I will recuse myself because I think it would be more detrimental if I were to vote.
Okay. All right. So, Gail, Dr. Batchelder is recusing herself.
And I am recusing.
Others. I'm sorry, who else?
I am. Farouk.
Okay. And Farouk is recusing himself from the vote.
Because we can still discuss this, I don't think this is much different from many other petitions that we've denied, except for one that had a very compelling, or two, medical reason and provided medical records.
That's right.
And lots of detail. So
that's right.
I don't think this is inconsistent with other decisions.
That's a good point.
No, I am actually on the CRT, David, and that's why
That's fine. I'm done listening to you guys. That's fine.
So that's the reason. Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion on the floor? Kathy has put a motion on the floor, and so we're waiting for a second.
It's been seconded, and we can vote unless people want to discuss it further.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And when you say aye to denial, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Franklin. Kurt.
Yeah, I think.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
He said yes. Yes. Dr. Batchelder is recused. Mr. Sadiq is recused. Ms. Listernick.
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Okay. Are you recusing yourself from voting, or
Well, you gave options before. Recusals you said were required, abstain where you have an option.
okay? So you're abstaining from voting. Okay. And Mr. McBride.
Yes.
Mr. Austin.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries to deny the petition. The vote was 2 recused, 1 abstention, and 6 in favor of denial.
Now, for future reference, how does that person have to handle their LSP status? Do they have to take it off business cards and stuff because their license is lapsed?
Yep. There's a form letter that the person will get noting he will now be lumped in with those folks who are those 11 or so folks who fail to get their renewals in, and he'll get a letter. And his license will be lapsed until he can get the credits. He has a year, I think, to come back in to the fold to get all the requirements met.
But he cannot hold himself out to be an LSP. Is that correct? It's in that category. None of those people.
All right. Let's look at the regs and see what that means for failure to renew. Okay. If a licensee's license expiration date, nope, that's wrong. Wow. Okay. So I'm looking, and it's clear he's going to have to be reinstated. And I'm looking to see whether or not he's suspended as opposed to lapsed at this point.
No, I think he's lapsed, but that isn't the question. It's a question if your license is lapsed, you don't hold the license, and right now your license isn't valid. And do you have to take the information related to you being an LSP? Do you have to divorce it from yourself? In other words, you can't put LSP after your name. You can't hold yourself out to be an LSP and all that other stuff.
Well, for the people who care so much about that, you guys research it and we'll move on.
Well, because it will apply to everybody. That's
I think that this is a special case, so the letter that he will get will spell that out. So I'll follow up on because I believe that Dr. Batchelder is right about holding himself out to be an LSP. I know that he cannot make submittals to DEP. So that's the lapsed part. holding self out, and I have to find out whether or not he needs to notify his client.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff related to that.
Yeah, yes, it's not just him. It is what happens when your license lapses.
Right.
And that is spelled out. We have form letters. Just FYI, we have form letters, and those form letters spell out what the LSP can and cannot do. Further discussion on a petition. Okay. I'm moving on now, unless there's further discussion, to item 6E on the board meeting agenda. There are a total of 465 LSPs as of August 10th. Because of the variation in people who haven't paid their annual fees, and that's where we lost numbers. We also have 2 LSPs who have gone in on an active status for the next 2 years, and they'll be that will be set out in the next board meeting agenda, who those folks are. Item 7, I'd like to schedule an exam committee meeting, so I'll be emailing people once I've had a meeting with Chris to determine how we're going to do this. He has, and I don't mean to talk about you like you're not here, Chris, but Chris has the exam and everything on a thumb drive. We just have to figure out how to schedule the meeting. And so I'll try and get that done before the September 15th meeting and set a date. Now, I do want to give a brief exam report. I'm still working with the commissioner on how we can safely administer the exam and keep social distancing and comply with the governor's the governor and the CDC requirements. So I don't know how that's going to happen because Winter Street is not open yet. And the commissioner is looking at alternative locations because the new software allows us, as I and Chris have mentioned, to offer the exam remotely, but we still have to comply with the COVID executive orders. So I don't know yet about dates for the exam. Report from the Continuing Ed Committee.
Yep, we met today. We looked at 7 course requests, and one was tabled, one was denied. All the other ones were approved. But Midwest Geosciences, that was put back onto them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's correct.
Yes.
And we talked about what to do about the draft minutes. Made a decision about that. And the next meeting is in September.
There is action to be taken on the committee recommendation. Is there a motion? Will someone move to approve the committee's recommendations?
Motion to accept as voted on in continuing education.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, and give me a second here. Continuing ed recommendations, roll call vote. Jamie?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Gail?
Sure.
Gail? Deb,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Farouk,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
and David.
I'm
Yes.
back. I lost my connection. What am I
We
voting on?
figured you're voting to approve whether or not to approve the continuing ed recommendations from earlier today.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All set then. Professional conduct, Mr. Smith.
Yes, we briefly discussed 3 of the dockets. Well, I guess 5 of the dockets. We did not take any action at the meeting, and we were all present, so there are no votes to
All right.
approve.
Thank you. And the regulations committee, I did go into the office and I have the section that I think we left off with, which was section 8.00. And this was in October of 2019. So I will, by the next meeting, have put in the corrections for section 8.0. And do you want to review that section, have schedule the regulations meeting rather at 11:30, or do you want to schedule it at 12:30? We will be reviewing 8.0, which is administrative penalty regulation.
Let's start at 12 in September.
Okay.
It'd be great to get back on it each month.
Yep. Okay, so the regulations meeting will be held, the reconstitution of the regulations committee on September 15th, 2020. We will start that meeting at 12 p.m. I will send out a draft of 8.0. And I'll try and do that before the meeting so that you'll have it in advance so it'll come separately from the packet and you'll have a chance to review it. Excuse me.
Is that going to be a public meeting or no?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Farouk?
Is that going to be a public meeting, open public meeting?
Oh yeah, what we'll do is we'll just set an earlier start time. You know, we'll start at 12 o'clock and the invitation to the public will say we're starting at 12 o'clock. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, I'm going to go through personnel budget and fees, skip down to C very quickly, and then we can go back to the LSPA letter that Wendy asked us to have on the agenda for today. So the only report that I have with respect to item C is that both positions have been posted, and we're just waiting for the requisitions to close. I'm seeing, but I have not yet reviewed that people have applied for both jobs. So once the requisitions close, that's in 14 days, I'll start reviewing those and get that process going.
Beverly, has there been any update or anything regarding board member replacements?
No, I would have put it on the agenda.
I assume so. It's just been so long.
Yeah, well, I met with the commissioner, again, about this, I prepared a memo, and I'm just looking through my book because I can tell you that Millie and I met. You know what? That may have been actually. It wasn't before COVID. It was in 2019. So to answer your question, Jamie, I prepared a memorandum for the commissioner late last fall, early winter, and everybody's name was on it. All the term, the term limits and all the information he needed, and he indicated that he was going to work on it. This is not an election year, so the governor is still there, and I just wish they would get moving. I haven't heard a thing.
How many board members are we down?
I think just one right now.
Just one?
But and there are people who have asked to be reappointed. There are terms are expiring. And the last time I called the governor's office, they told me don't do that. But they're not moving it. They're not moving it. Every time, I'm asked for info. Actually, I initiated the meeting with the commissioner and prepared, like I said, a memo, and he has it. I don't know why it's not moving. I mean, if the board members want, I think I'll.
Well, we can wait till Millie's back. I mean, it may be worth raising it again. It'd be nice to.
Well, Millie doesn't have anything to do with it. She's not part of the. She sits in on the meeting, but she is not part of. I prepare the memos. I prepare the documents that go up to the governor's office. I answer questions, and the chairperson has a limited role with respect to the board. He or she is a voted, pursuant to statute, not pursuant to Beverly, pursuant to statute and the regulations. There's nothing, as you know, in the regulations that carves out a spot for the chairperson. In the only designation of a chairperson is in the statutory creation of the LSP board. And the chairperson is actually the commissioner or the commissioner's designee who is a voting member. So I'm just at a loss for why this isn't moving, why nothing is moving since the appointment of Greg and Mark. And this puts, and I've stressed this to the commissioner, this puts a burden on everyone. And there is one person who has requested not to be reappointed. So there are actually a couple of vacancies. I'm just at a loss. And I will raise it with the commissioner that board members, not specifically you, Jamie, board members have questions.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. I mean, it really is unfortunate that people have been left in limbo for this length of time. Board member replacements, I'll add it to my meeting with the commissioner.
Executive session?
I didn't hear you, Farouk.
Do we still have to go into executive session?
We're not going to have an executive session today.
Okay.
I'm going to schedule that separately about 05. The only case to be discussed is 05C, and that's litigation strategy.
Okay.
And so I'll schedule that.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. But the final item on the agenda for today is the LSP letter that was in your packet last month. And I don't know if Wendy has sent a question to Chris about the letter for discussion.
Not as of, nope,
There
not
were
as of
two
yet.
letters. Is it about topics for communication with LSPs and other stakeholders, or
Yeah.
the letter about? Okay, thank you.
Yep, it's that one. Open the floor for discussion.
Well, I think the first point is moot now because it's passed about the renewals.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Is there a motion? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
When they just posted most of the questions, most of the questions are now moot, but the overall point of regular communication to LSPs stand. And then Wes just said, Wendy told me she lost her internet connection to her house. The wire fell down. So I guess she has it back now.
Yeah. Okay. So that takes care of that, unless there's further discussion.
Is there a way to put up that letter on the screen?
I don't know if I have it. Hold on.
It wasn't, I didn't resend it.
I think we can go through I think we can quickly go through the 6 questions at the end of the letter.
Yep. Go ahead, David.
Well, starting with the third one, we've answered that. No minutes posted on the website from recent LSP board meetings. That was resolved.
Yep.
We've talked about trying to schedule and find a location for the next LSP exam, which,
yeah, but,
gosh,
but go ahead, David. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Which I think it's great that that's being worked on, and I hope that happens soon because we have people who are ready to take it and we have exams for them. I'm not sure what the August 18th, 2020 date that was discussed at a June LSP board meeting.
That was the 90 days out from the governor's first declaration that it was going to be 90 days from March, May, whenever he made the declaration. So anybody who had a July deadline got, or June deadline or May deadline, got it pushed out to the 18th. But then that was rescinded with his most recent order, the 41.
So yeah, so that's moot.
So I'm sorry I'm not going in order. I guess I was just going from easy to more difficult. What do I do if I'm locked out of EDP? People who've contacted me, I've told them to contact Chris and Beverly, and then I've never heard from them.
Right.
So something must have worked for them, and it got resolved.
That's right.
But maybe that needs to be more public. I'm not sure.
You know, that's an internal thing, and it's based on us submitting the renewal docket to EDEP. There are people working from home. There are vacation schedules. You know, the problem is that in a lot of cases, LSPs wait until the very last minute to submit something and then find out that they have, and it could be anything. Chris Borges has listed a number of things. Maybe they entered their ID number incorrectly, or they haven't paid their fees, and or the check wasn't. There are a myriad of different reasons. It's a case-by-case analysis as to whether somebody is locked out of EDEP or not, and so we deal with it that way. But sometimes the LSPs are so late in getting their submittals. When they find out they're locked out, they email me at 10 o'clock at night. I am not obligated to be on my email at 10 o'clock at night, and neither is EDEP or any of that staff. So we do the best we can to keep up with them. David, if you haven't heard back from anyone who initially contacted you, that's probably a good sign. We make every effort to accommodate people. So,
well, I appreciate the efforts, but and regardless of that, is it obvious to an LSP on the website, because I haven't looked at it, what they need to do if they're locked out of EDEP?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they need to contact the board.
Okay.
That it's obvious that they need to contact the board. And again, you know, we send out, when folks are licensed, we send out a sheet that we include that in the packet once they pass the exam, a sheet that Chris prepared on how to log into EDEP and how to register, because they have to register first. And so those steps are given to them. But
and then the first question was,
but complaining to the LSPA, I don't know what to tell them.
and then the first question was, if they haven't heard back after emailing after a few weeks, is there something they should do? Is there a plan B? I don't know. Do you check your voice messages remotely? I'm not really sure. But that was
Barbara checks the LSP board. So the answer to your question is yes. I don't know of anyone who has waited weeks to get into EDEP without us responding. If there is such a person, I'd like to talk to them, first of all, to apologize, but to find out what happened.
We did have two people that we were working with continuously to restore their EDEP access, and it wasn't it was a malfunction in the database itself.
Right.
And okay. So we had to work with IT to figure out what the problem was, because myself and two other people who work on the EDEP helpline went over all the possibilities that it could be. You know, check the expiration date, check the address, check to make sure they were using their correct EEDB sign-in, that their proof was up to date, all that stuff. And it was all correct. And then, so then we had to go to IT. IT had to look at the database and figure out what was wrong. And, you know, so there were a couple of cases, and that's just you know, something that happens.
Those are IT issues. And you're right, Chris. I do recall that person, and there was one person who had a problem for, I believe, 3.5 days of being locked out. But it's not always the board's issue. It's not always EDEP's issue, as Chris has just related. Sometimes it's a malfunction of the entire system. So we do the best we can. That's all I can say. Everybody does. It's a joint effort.
Yeah, we usually get pretty good. We used to get pretty good notifications when EDP system would go down for everyone, and or parts of it would go down, and LSPs would contact us saying, I can't get in. And so one of the first things we try to do is get into the system on our end. And if we can't get in at all, then the system is down. We don't get a lot of those notifications anymore from IT, just because they're still bogged down with setting up more VPN access, rolling out laptops for people. So when these little hiccups come where the server goes down for, say, 2 hours, we sometimes won't hear of it, or we'll hear of it after it's up again. And then all we can do is tell the person, okay, try and log in again. The system might have been down.
Right.
Is there
anything else? David, we were going through it with his help.
Excuse me?
Was there
No,
anything
I
else
said
in the
Dave.
letter? Sorry.
No, I don't think anyone's trying to place blame. They're just, people are looking to see how there could be more fluid communications during the pandemic. That's all.
Yeah, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that because, if you're locked out of EDEP, the first call that you have to make is, first of all, the board to make sure that your paperwork is in order, to make sure that your license hasn't lapsed, and that's why you're locked out. And then the next step is EDEP itself to find out whether or not you have entered all the information correctly, whether or not the system is down, whether or not there's some specific glitch with your login. So,
yeah,
like I said, it's a case-by-case basis. And Chris, go ahead.
One of the common issues that we've seen is sometimes LSPs will contact the service desk, and they don't deal with they don't deal with EDEP. So sometimes they'll try to look at the problem and fix it when they really don't have the resources to do that.
Right.
And then what ends up happening is we don't get the notice until a few days after, when they say, "Oh, well, we don't know how to, what to tell this person." And we keep trying to tell them, look, if you get something like this that deals with EDEP, you need to tell us.
Exactly.
And I think the communication has gotten better, because we've been dealing with the issues we've had. Probably over the last 9 months, has been a lot of turnover with the staff that man EDP. So we're down to 3 people now, myself being one of them. And I think now we're kind of in a groove where we've seen a lot of the different possibilities, and we can bounce questions off each other and quickly anticipate and or figure out what the problems may be. Before, we had up to, I think, 5 or 6 people manning EDP, and some had no idea and or access to the Epic system to update LSP information. So that's changed now.
Right. Further discussion. Okay. Well, hearing no further discussion, our future meeting, September 15th, 2020.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
And, roll call to adjourn. Jamie.
Yes.
Mr. Franklin.
Yes.
Dr. Batchelder.
Yes.
Ms. Listernick.
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sadiq.
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
and Mr. Austin.
Yes.
And the meeting stands adjourned at 4:23. Thank you all.
Have a great month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good night.